Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I'm your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. And with me today is a new and very special guest, the DUI guy.
How's it going?
Pretty good, man. Welcome to the show. Happy to have you on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, dude. Everybody's been telling me, like, dude, you got to go on the show. You got to go on the show. I'm like, all right, I'll do it. I'm here.
I don't know what they've gotten you into and why they hate you so much, but you're here now.
No escape now. It's too late.
Yep, you are forever tainted. You are forever tainted and destroyed. But it's fine. It's a good place to be.
I've been watching your recap of the Depp trial, man. It's been a hoot to watch.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's kind of weird covering these trials live as that becomes like this little cottage industry of we're going to have people spend copious amounts of their life watching lawyers argue slowly in court. I've been enjoying it, but man, it's weird. You're like, why would anybody want to sit through 8 hours of court every single day? Like, why would you do this to yourself? But
yeah.
But it's fun to cover, and it's interesting to see the way people do things. But speaking of that, I mean, that's what you do on your channel with with frequency. Is it's you often in court, or maybe exclusively, with recorded court proceedings in cases that you practice, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I back in the day, I didn't know anybody would really be interested in this kind of stuff. I thought this was just, the arena of the courtroom is not really in the public eye unless it's like a really notorious, case with celebrities that everybody knows, everybody's talking about, obviously, like this whole Johnny Depp thing. But
Right.
I started posting like some hearings here and there. I posted a couple of trials a few years ago, and I thought my demographic was going to be lawyers, law students, maybe some judges, and then that's it, literally. But apparently people find some of this stuff entertaining. And, as I got better with it, I started to grab a wider audience. And I don't know, it just kind of got legs of its own. I couldn't tell you.
No, it's fantastic. And the reason one of the things I like about your channel, and I mean, I haven't watched all your videos or anything, but I've seen quite a few, is you do some of the hardest stuff. Like, you have a very difficult practice area for a couple reasons. One, these are statutory infractions, right? Like, pretty much if you're over that 0.08 on a breathalyzer, a BAC test, you're in trouble. Almost always, unless you can discredit the test or discredit the tester.
Right.
And you're going against almost exclusively cops as witnesses. I mean, there's not, you're not running into too many, like, this guy reported the DUI and is a critical witness, because, I mean, someone calls in, yeah, this guy's swerving or whatever, made me nervous, almost hit me. And then the cop has to take it from there. They just get enough suspicion to go, like, maybe pursue the car and follow it for a little bit and observe the behavior. But they have to see like a swerve. They have to see something to justify the stop. And so, like, the real witnesses in your thing are all these heaps of presumed credibility, and you're in a system with a crime that many people find to be really despicable, but also not salacious enough to attract a ton of attention. It's amazing, and you're like in there doing the hard fights. That's what I love about seeing it. And I would like to talk about that a little bit more, but I need to do a little bit of pre-show intro prep, and then we'll kind of get into who you are, like reel back a little bit, get into who you are, how long you've been practicing, what your YouTube channel, like what got you started in it. And then we'll kind of go into that DUI practice. Cause I find it fascinating. And I pled out a DUI my job was literally delay. So it was easy. Like, oh,
Push
you're
it
going
back
to,
as far as you can.
yeah, it's like, you're going to take the plea deal. I mean, fine. Well, we could do that. That's simple. I can negotiate for you. But, I told him that if it was going to go to trial, I would refer him out because it's a technical practice and I didn't have the technical expertise on it. So, but let me do this real quick, guys. What's up? Welcome to the chat. Today we had the day 4 of Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, and we've got the DUI guy for a little bit tonight. Probably not the full show, so we'll get into the Depp versus Heard updates a little bit later, either on the tail end of our interview or after you leave, whichever that may be, and that'll be fine. But make sure you check out the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard coverage every day, except, well, Monday through Thursday at 8:30 a.m. ish, 8:30, 8:45. This isn't me going to court. I'm not going to be on time if I don't have to. But that being said, man, can you tell us a little bit more about like your background? Where do you practice? How long have you been practicing law? How long have you been specialized and self-identifying as the DUI guy? What's that like? Give me some background.
Sure. So my story is definitely not as common as probably most people here. I'm sure you've heard of law students who just finished law school. They join either the prosecutor's office or they join the public defender's office. They get their feet wet. They kind of grind everything and anything because they have no choice. It's all just being thrown at them. The very lucky ones will get like maybe a position in a small firm. The less lucky ones who, as I'm sure you know, the ones who are the valedictorian, the top 3-5% actually get the crappiest of the crap deals because they become slaves, basically. They're glorified slaves for these giant mega firms, and they're so happy for the first 3 weeks, and then they realize what they're really into, and it's just a miserable existence, as you know.
80 to 100-hour weeks of grinding, and you make good money, but you're doing the work that none of the other lawyers want to do, and you're doing it a whole lot. And if you can stick with it, you can do great. You can make a ton of money. You can either buy into partner at a firm or start your own and make good connections. But oh my God, it's soul crushing.
I've seen so many people just burn out, like, 6 months, 1 year. It's like law school 2.0 for a lot of these folks. But for me, I finished the bar in like 2013, and before I found out I passed, I was like trying to interview. You okay there?
I've got a drinking problem. I'll need your representation.
Choked up on my story, did I? No, anyway, I'll keep going while you're covered.
I was drinking some tea through my lungs. It's fine.
Anyway, so yeah, I was looking for work. I had interviews lined up. I had plans A, B, C, D, E, F. I was just that kid, right after the bar, I was like, what's my next step? It was, I don't come from a family of lawyers. I come from an immigrant family. So to me, it's like, I'm building a legacy. I wanted to build something of my own, but I needed some help, obviously. And basically every interview I did, it was either I didn't get hired or I didn't like the position or whatever it was. So finally I get sworn in and I opened up my own firm. And now the question became like, what the hell am I going to do? What am I going to practice? What's the field? Am I going to be a jack of all trades, master of none? Am I going to take one and specialize? So I went to the internet and I already had kind of like an idea because I did a lot of crim law, crim pro, criminal procedure for those of you who are not law students or lawyers out there, and criminal law courses back in law school. So I had the background, but I didn't know that's exactly what I was going to go into. Well, to make a long story short, in my research previously and during that time in October, I found that the American Bar Association only recognizes a handful of specialties. And in 2008, which was 5 years prior at the time, DUI was actually one of them. And I was flabbergasted. I thought DUI, that's just a crime. Like, why is DUI on the list of specializations. You would think like, it's sitting there with trademark law and IP law, and you're like, what on earth? Why is this a specialty? And I realize it's exactly because of the things that you've mentioned just a moment ago. It involves so many different fields. I mean, any lawyer. I had a prosecutor actually earlier today saying, I wish your client was charged with murder. It would have made my job easier in negotiating the case with you. Because we have a statute here in Kentucky that prohibits prosecutors from negotiating certain DUI cases, depending on the case and the county. Well, the DUI field, I've learned, and I devoured. I was that nerd. I devoured like an 1,800-page treatise on DUI law.
Ooh. Hats off to you, sir.
I was bored. I had no money, no clients, and all the time in the world. So it was like one of those no-brainers things. And then, of course, I did what any millennial would do. I took to Reddit to test my skills.
Okay.
And I still have the link on my website. I actually redid it like 5 years later, but I did an AMA. I did an Ask Me Anything. I said, I'm a criminal defense lawyer. I didn't say this, but with absolutely zero experience. Just book read and test my knowledge. And I just literally wanted to see what I'm capable of. And apparently I knew more than I suspected, because when people start throwing questions at you, you really get a chance. Like if you can teach the subject, as I'm sure you know, anybody who's ever told you, if you can teach it, you know it well enough to at least be able to sustain yourself. And I found the moniker, the DUI guy. It's not mine. I found it somewhere, and I realized there wasn't one in Kentucky. And since we're not competing with each other, I mean, there's like the DUI man, the DWI dude, the DUI guy. There's like these DUI guys, plural, in California. They trademarked.
There's two of them. That seems like they might be better.
Well, I think it's a whole company. I don't even know, man. And they're in California, so who cares, right?
Right, exactly. Pretend land.
Yeah, crazy place. So I was like, all right, I'll be the DUI guy here. And then, the first reaction was, who the hell are you? And then slowly but surely, they're like, okay, all right, this guy wants to be number one. He's doing whatever the hell he's doing. And off I went.
And so you, by off you went, you meant you started snatching up basically every DUI case you could, right? Like
everything that came in the door, DUI wise. I mean, I did other, basic criminal stuff as well, assaults and shoplifting charges and speeding tickets, basically all in district court, in the criminal arena. The criminal world was very inviting, especially for someone who had zero connections, zero money, up to debt to his eyeballs, in debt. I had so much hunger, and criminal law paid off because it's money up front. Personal injury world, for example, is not the same. Right. It's much better money, but it's money months and months and months down the road. I needed money at the time, so I didn't have the luxury of
personal injury. You or your firm or whatever end up fronting a huge amount of cost. A lot of times, if you're taking contingency cases, you're going, okay, how many hours do we think we can do this case in? Does that cost benefit analysis match up with what the contingency will be if we get an expected return, or what we can think we could settle on? And then you have to dump in those resources at the front and hope that, and which is why they really are good at picking slam dunks most of the time and turning away the rest of the business. But you also have to be able to weather turning away significant amounts of business because you just can't take on those cases. And I don't know if you ran into this, but I practiced. I mean, I'm active, but I'm not active, if you know what I mean. I practiced in a small town, and it's you want to take everything that comes through the door, but 80% of the people can't pay you anywhere near the hourly rate you need to sustain. So you're taking a bunch of discount cases, or you're not taking cases. That's the hurdle I was facing a lot of times. And I mean, I did criminal defense cases for $500 for the whole thing, because there was just no other money to get out of it. So, but did you run into a lot of that as you were starting out?
Of course. I mean, thinking back, I was doing cases dirt cheap, no question, because I didn't know. First of all, in the beginning, I didn't know what to charge. I remember people telling me like, I would know what to charge. I'm like, dude, just make it up, make it reasonable, make it whatever you feel it's worth. Eventually, you'll find that sweet spot, which is, believe it or not, finding the market rate is really not that difficult. Your own like potential clients will steer you in the right direction because you'll quote them something and you'll get a whoa, heck no, I can't pay that, and then you realize, okay, maybe that's a little too steep, not just for this person. I've heard this 3 times today. That's not a good idea. Maybe I need to lower my rates, or and everything in between. But I remember days when, so I charge by the case. Sure. I learned very early on that I'm not a giant criminal defense mega firm. I'm just one guy at the time, and if I want to thrive and survive, and the rules permit me to do so, because I'm sure Minnesota is similar in the sense of you can't take criminal cases on contingency.
Right.
It can be hourly or it can be flat rate. So I chose the flat rate route for 2 reasons. One, it's money up front and it's easy to get. Sometimes you have to split it up into maybe a couple payments at the very least for the small cases, which I was getting early on. But number 2, and I think much more practical, is that when you have a flat fee, the client knows exactly what they're walking into. They know exactly how much they're paying, for what, and there are no questions later of, wait, why do I owe more? Where is this money coming from? Like, I know a lot of lawyers who charge by the appearance, and I think they lose clients quite a bit because the client goes, all right, so it's $500 per appearance. Okay, so how many appearances am I looking at? I don't know, 1 to 2, should be no more than that. And then it goes to 3, and then it goes to 4, and maybe 5. And now the client's going, WTF, I didn't sign up for this.
Right.
Yeah. And then they bounce, and it's like, and then maybe they ask for a refund. Like, you scammed me. You're doing this for your own benefit. I don't know. I'm envisioning like a nightmare scenario. So I was like, you know what? I just want clients to eat. Sometimes you get the windfall. I've had cases where I was paid several thousands, and just because of my reputation, I was able to get a result much quicker than somebody else would, and it's not my fault. And sometimes I would get the complete opposite. I would charge not enough, and then I would have to keep going and going and going. And I'm like, is this case ever going to end? And you're in the trenches at this point. You're losing money, you're hemorrhaging money on this case, but you can't come to the client and say, look, man, I need more money from you, because that's not fair. And it balances itself out at the end of the day, the windfalls and the non-windfalls. But yeah, I remember taking cases like my first DUI, if I remember correctly, I think I charged $800.
$800. That's pretty low for a DUI.
That's extremely low compared to like the rates that I have today. It's a stark comparison. But here's the thing, I will never forget how I was very well read at that point. I had 0 practical experience. And I had this case that my classmate's girlfriend, or I think wife, I can't remember if they were married at the time or not, came to me and said, hey, I need your help to represent her in her DUI. That was my first case, my first DUI case. I hope he's not watching this. He's going to freaking murder me. But I on the books, I knew exactly what I needed to do. And, I was like, I'm going to take this case to trial and I'm going to win and this and that. And I came to the prosecutor, and I'll never forget it. He looked at me and he said, do you have like any idea how you plan on winning this case? And part of me was like, yeah, show him what you're made of. And yeah. And then I'm like, wait a minute, do you really want to reveal your entire strategy to your opponent? Like, that seems like a very counterproductive way of conducting business in the courtroom. So
the first good question from a prosecutor you encountered.
Most definitely. And it was very, very confusing to me. And I had a lot of conflicting feelings. But like, the more I talked to some criminal defense lawyers, then they looked at me and they're like, dude, this is not a case you take to trial. Like, it had like a high BAC and a bad video. And I had this illusion, this let's face it, I was delusional. Just because I had this ambition that was not in conformity with reality. But that's how I got my start. And the one case, this was actually not a DUI case, but I'll never forget. This was like maybe my second month of practice, and nobody really truly knew who I was, and what I was capable of. And I had this case. It was a failure to carry a license case. The person just didn't have a license on them.
So they had a
But it was
license, just not on them.
well, no, actually, I take it back. They didn't have a license, period. I'm sorry, I forgot they didn't have a license, period, because
Okay.
they were driving a moped, and it was one of those 49cc mopeds,
Yeah,
which don't require a license.
sure. But the
But
cops charged him anyway.
the cops charged him anyway, and the prosecutor was like, "Look, I'll give him a deal." And I'm like, "What do you mean deal? This is a dismissal. You don't have anything. You literally have nothing." And he's like, "I don't care. Take the deal or whatever." And I go, "All right, okay." I just take the case file. I don't accept the deal. I just take the case file. I walk inside the courtroom and I start arguing to the judge like a lawyer should. Little did I know, by the way, very few people did this kind of crap. Practice law in the
Yeah.
courtroom. Yeah.
Yep.
And I started arguing to the judge. I was like, "Your Honor, the law states this, and the facts are as follows, and the prosecutor will not dismiss the case, and I'm asking the court to dismiss the case for them." And there was a
Oh
prosecutor
man.
sitting.
Dude, when you see, I know this because I had this on a, sorry to interrupt. I had this
Oh
on
no.
a speech case, and it was in small town Minnesota. And it was a guy was what were they charging him with? It was like harassment. It was a harassment case, but it was because he posted a negative review on a website. But the guy who he posted the review about was his dad had a restraining order. And but like this is still clearly a First Amendment issue, right? He got to say you could post on he didn't like call up his dad and violate the order. He didn't like post a review and then email his dad a whole bunch of stuff. He didn't do anything to contact the dad. It was just I posted a review online about this guy. And so I go in and I ask the court to dismiss the case. The prosecutor looked at me like I was insane. Like, why would you even ask the court this? How dare you? So I know that exactly what you're talking about. It's crazy.
That's that feeling right there. That's it. Because the prosecutor who was in the courtroom, so they had a couple prosecutors. One was the one wheeling and dealing in the conference room, and then you had the prosecutor that was in the courtroom watching this whole thing unfold. So this prosecutor just basically got like all wide-eyed, like, "Oh my God, what is happening? Your Honor, if I may have a moment." He walked out, talked to the prosecutor in the room, explained the situation, and that prosecutor didn't even walk in. He just said, "Whatever, it is what it is." And the judge ended up dismissing my case. And for about 18 months, I think my nickname was Moped Guy around the entire courthouse. I
He's the
kid
guy
you
who got
not.
the moped case dismissed. But you hate that because you know it's bogus. Like the letter of the law doesn't support the charge. It's a 49
Yep.
and they I don't know what they said to you, but they always pull something. They did this in the Rittenhouse case, right? Like, well, we
Mm,
don't know that it's legal. It's like, what do you mean you don't know? Like, could be a 51cc moped. It's like, what are you talking? Like, stop this. Like, this is
right.
obviously outside of the purview of this law. And so let's not even have this. But they'll take that approach where, well, it might be illegal. It's like, well, that doesn't sound like probable cause to me. But I don't know. I hate that stuff. So you went straight out of law school, right into the trenches. You find this DUI niche, and then how long have you been the DUI guy? Like, how long have you been doing this?
8.5 years. Just celebrated the half, I suppose.
Well, congratulations on that. And
Thanks,
is
brother.
there any look of stopping or changing, or are you just like this is your thing that you're going to stick with forever? Are you going to expand? What are your plans?
So we started expanding. The pandemic has kind of showed me DUIs are not forever, and they're starting to come back. And again, so many people ask me, are you a proponent? I mean, obviously, I'm not a psychopath, okay? DUIs are a bad thing, okay, people? I don't support DUIs. I'm actually very much against them. I always say, if you can put me out of business, I'll do something else. I didn't go to DUI law school, okay?
Right.
I didn't like study this exclusively. I know it, and by the way, and you mentioned this already, DUI being such a niche and difficult field, doing literally anything else, a murder case is easier than a DUI case. So I can traverse into murder law and burglary law and rape law and everything in between, and it's going to be easier than what I've been doing up until this point. So the world is my oyster, as you might phrase it that way. But with the pandemic, I branched out. So I created a personal injury wing. So we started doing some more personal injury work, primarily car accidents. My buddy went out on his own, and I basically started feeding him cases, and we were working on cases together. Now we have several that are in litigation. Some big ones like semi versus car versus semi. Those are always good. But I don't know. I've actually thought about this a lot, and I don't think I'm going to stay in the criminal world forever. I mean, right now it still pays the bills. We just bought and moved into a new building.
Very cool.
So, yeah. So I have to keep the bills coming. I can't do anything too drastic, but eventually I'll be able to maybe traverse to. I mean, again, the skill of questioning a witness and questioning a witness effectively, as I'm sure you know from your own practice, is an art.
Yeah, it's all about. I mean, it's a couple different things at once. It's about planning. You have to know what your strategy is, what you're trying to get out of a particular witness. So you have to be on top of the case enough to know what you're looking for. Then it's about crafting the questions from someone who is either friendly, but you can't have them be too friendly, or they're hostile, and you have to get past their little barriers. And then it's about understanding people, which is the part that isn't taught so well. And there isn't a concrete formula to teach it. That's why it's not really taught. But you have to be able to intuitively interact with someone to the point where when you're pushing too far, you're not pushing enough. That there's more information that's hiding in there, or when you need to back off because the person is either getting annoyed or they're getting excited or anxious, and you have to be able to recognize and discern the differences between all of those in real time. And there's no one that can teach you how to do that. You just gotta talk to enough people, I guess.
I was literally just about to comment on that. It comes with experience. You can't substitute that in any way, shape, or form. It comes with your prior experiences, knowing how to deal with different types of people, and simply understanding the cookie cutter pattern. Okay, so this is type, zeta, whatever that I'm dealing with. So I need to approach it with the same formula that has worked in the past. But the problem is, and why I think you're absolutely right, that it's completely unteachable, is because it's a life skill. It's a people skill. It's not something you can read in a book or even watch on YouTube and then emulate. You have to practice it. Now, you can learn how to become better at it, but in order to perfect it, you still have to do it. There's no substitute.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just something. And some people, I mean, there are different professions that are really good at it. They're like, for example, cops who transition into being lawyers. They have tons of interview experience from they talk to people in this type of setting, sort of an adversarial confrontational setting. And they're very good at extracting information, but, there are ways to do it, but there's no classroom that can get you there. And that's what I hated about law school was whenever we would do the practical stuff, we would do the mock depositions or mock witness testimony. It's like their entire persona that they're supposed to adopt, and they're not very good actors because they're law students. But the entire persona is reduced to a paragraph to 2 pages, and that's what we're supposed to be working with, and we're supposed to discern a limited set of facts out of this with no life experience, nothing behind it for the person other than what they can imbue into the part. And it's like, this isn't helpful. But yeah, it's a tough skill. What is the, I guess, we've got some chat questions that I'll want to get to in a little bit, but what is the number one misconception about DUI cases or DUI offenders? I mean, wherever you want to take that, that you see out there. I mean, and I can couch this a little bit in my limited experience as a criminal defense attorney. You meet people who have done something that is morally offensive to you, but yet you learn a lot about that person. You don't see this one sliver of their life. So regarding, I guess, either people themselves or the practice of it, what's the biggest misconception that you encounter either in your practice or in your commentary?
So the one thing I can definitely comment on is, the majority of clients, the vast majority of clients that we have in our firm are not repeat offenders.
Right.
More so than that, not only are they first-time offenders, they're broken into 2 groups. And the group that is the larger, maybe let's call it the 2/3, 3/4 group, are the ones that are in the wrong place at the wrong time, who had something devastating happen in their life. They lost a parent, they're going through a divorce, they lost their job. Something happened in their life that caused them to do this stupid act. It is never truly intentional. I'm going to go get hammered and then I'm going to drive because I don't give a damn about anyone's life kind of deal. They're human beings just like anybody else. Don't get me wrong, those exist too, but there are such a small percentage that it's probably in the single digits if I were to really go back and try and analyze. The other, let's call it a third, maybe a quarter to a third, are individuals who hold on, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. So the group that are in the wrong place, wrong time, and then the other, I remember. The cop is absolutely wrong. The cop is absolutely wrong. They were sleeping in their car, or the officer did not get the situation right. They were not high or drunk or anything whatsoever. It was simply the officer who made a mistake. It is actually staggering, and I think it's all these incentives that they have in the police force to gain more arrests, to arrest more people, to get those recognitions. So cops are out and about. Let me just rack up as many DUIs as I can, because they know the majority of people can't afford a lawyer and they're going to plead out anyway. So the numbers stick.
Right.
And it is depressing. If everybody were able to fight their case, I think the statistics would show how many innocent people are caught in the cogs of the machine, and they just have to plea out because they have no choice, because they can't afford the proper representation. Because I'm sure, as you know, and I'm not trying to ding public defenders by any stretch of the imagination, but we all know they don't have time to deal with DUIs because of their complexity, because of their intricacies. They have felony cases that they have to deal with, that they have to prioritize, because there's only so many hours in the day, and you don't get to choose who you take on as a client as a public defender. So that's the world we live in, and that's the biggest misconception, I would say.
Yeah, and that's an important one, because you get the salacious news story, right? Like I still, this sticks with me. I remember seeing a news story years and years ago as a guy in Texas who had just gotten a sweet plea deal on his 9th DUI, right? And it was like, and it was no jail time. He got to keep his license. He had to do some like classes. And like, first of all, who's your lawyer? Give that guy a trophy. Second of all, Judge, what the hell are you doing? Like, this is the kind of guy who probably does need to go to jail at this point. Like, he needs to go behind bars. 9 times DUI is a bit much. But I mean, I still remember that. And you think, yeah, there are these people who they just have these massive drinking problems, and they drink so much that they just have to get in a car and they have to drive, and they're out at the club every night getting hammered and then coming home and can't take an Uber or whatever. But it's not really that. You're saying it's usually just normal person. They have a bad day, right? Mom dies, dad dies, spouse leaves them, something like that. They go out, they end up out. Maybe they get the phone call while they're at work or whatever. They end up out, and then oh shit, I got to get home. And then they go home, and on the way home, they get tagged. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
That's basically it. And if you know anything about human emotion, which I'm sure you've seen a lot in your profession, just like I have, when you have an individual, and I'm sure everybody in the chat has too, by the way, when you have a human being, male or female, who is filled with any type of emotion, the natural inclination, especially negative emotion, the natural inclination is to sometimes use alcohol as a crutch to drown that emotion, to suppress it, to feel anything but what I'm feeling right now. Please,
Right.
dear God, just make this feeling go away. But what we don't realize is that alcohol is like a drug, just like that emotion is a chemical, a drug. And all that happens is, rather than getting it suppressed, you're now getting that emotion with heightened intensity. So now you're making even poor decisions, and it all just spirals out of control from there.
What do you think about one thing you mentioned kind of struck me as you were talking about public defenders and taking DUI cases, and this is something that a lot of people kind of overlook. And I think your revelation at the beginning that DUI is one of the few criminal specialties that's recognized by the ABA is something that you don't understand until you start to practice law, and in particular criminal law. It's so technical and requires so much knowledge and expertise that public defenders don't have time for it. And the other end of that sword is that these are often misdemeanor to gross misdemeanor cases. Felony DUI requires, in Minnesota, you have to have, I think, at least 2 aggravating factors, which means generally that you have to have like either a prior in the past, I don't know, 12 months, 24 months, something like that, prior DUI, or you have to have a BAC of 0.16 or higher to get the aggravating factor. You have to be twice the legal limit, or you have to have a kid in the car. And you have to have 2 of those things to get up to felony level. It's not so simple. You know, a lot of times it's people with, it is the repeat offenders who end up at felony DUI because they have 2 priors or 3 priors or whatever. But getting up there is kind of rare. Normally it's misdemeanor. You know, there might be a license suspension. They're not going to jail for more than maybe a day or 2, and then they're going to go out and pay a big fine and go on with life. But the public defenders looking at all these felony cases that they have that get really complicated, and they're like, these things have more, like it or not, these have more consequential results for the person than the DUI. And so you might allocate your time that way. And it's crazy because, like you said, you know, you may not be able to afford the proper representation.
Right.
So let's talk about that proper representation of a DUI case. Like what makes this, I gave like an overview, but I'd love to hear from you. What makes this case so specialized that people need to know, or might be interested to know, kind of looking into the field from the outside?
So, okay, I'm going to start with the basics. When an individual gets pulled over and the police officer gathers information, because that's all they're doing at that point. They don't know what they're about to encounter when they approach the driver of the vehicle. They have maybe a suspicion depending on the way that the driver was driving. But they're walking into it blind, and they're just gathering data. They're gathering information. They're asking you questions. And this is why I always say, don't talk to the police. Even if you're completely 100% innocent, haven't done anything, keep your answers as short as possible and try and get on your merry way. Now, if you are breaking the law and you probably shouldn't have been driving, that's when you absolutely positively do not talk to the police under any circumstances. And as I always say, refuse the field sobriety tests. There is.
Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought, and then I want to engage with that a minute.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that there are zero consequences for refusing field sobriety tests in the United States of America, other than getting arrested, which you're probably going to get arrested anyway.
Right. So that's one of the critical things, because a lot of states have what are called informed consent laws. And so what the implication and how people are told about this is, if you refuse the breathalyzer, then you are going to lose your license for a year. In Minnesota, you'll get I think it's effectively like getting a DUI charge. You will catch a criminal case for refusing it. But people get one thing wrong. They say refuse the breathalyzer. What they mean is refuse the intoxilizer or the blood draw or the urine test that happens under supervision at a station. The field sobriety test is the hand breathalyzer unit that they use, which is only there to develop probable cause. It's not there to actually flesh out the evidence of what your actual blood alcohol content is. It's not quite reliable enough for that. And the different tests, like the nystagmus test, say your ABCs backwards, walk the line test, all of those things. Those are your field sobriety tests, and you don't have to do them.
No, you don't. And I don't know of any jurisdiction that even penalizes drivers for refusing the handheld breath test, like you mentioned, the preliminary breath test, as it's called, or the PBT. And people are just humans. Humans, we're naturally designed, and this is why police training, they teach you in police in the academy. Don't ask the driver, would you like to come out and do, because now you're giving them an option. Would you like to come out and do these field sobriety tests? You do not want to give the driver an option, because they naturally will respond to authority, the majority of people, and they will respond to as a command. Come out here, do these tests. Yes, sir. Yep. Yes, ma'am. They will comply.
Let me have you step out of the car.
Yep.
I'm going to need you to walk on this. I'm going to put some tape on the ground. I'm going to need you to walk in a straight line, heel to toe on this tape. Stand on one foot, hold your arms out to the side, and touch your nose with each finger. I need you to do this. And you could say no, but you have to say no. You have to affirmatively assert your right against doing these things.
And you have absolutely every right to do that. And the officer has zero recourse other than simply saying, okay, put your hands behind your back. You're coming downtown with me. I mean, that's the worst they can do to you. And you're probably going there anyway. The officer usually makes up their mind in the first 60 seconds of a true DUI interaction. Once they smell the alcohol, I mean, that's it. Forget about it. They're going to get you in front of that breathalyzer, whether you like it or not. Now, refusing and submitting to it, it's jurisdiction by jurisdiction. So I think I just learned something new. Minnesota sounds like they're very much like Nebraska. Do not refuse. You're probably one of the 11 states I've learned about. I know there's 11 of them where you do not refuse. You do not advocate for refusal, because you can beat the underlying charge, but you will still lose on the refusal, and it's a separate criminal offense.
It's awful. The other reason, the real reason it's awful, is because when we get a phone call about it, right, your client is at the station being booked, and they're asking for a consult with their attorney to determine. We can't tell them to refuse because we can't advocate them to commit a criminal act. It's an ethical quandary, and it's something that the criminal defense bar here has been fighting for years. They're like, this is not fair, because even if you're advocating for them to commit the criminal act, it may be a better option for them, because those penalties still remove the evidence. If this guy thinks, he's 2 times the legal limit, you might want to refuse the test, because the presumed penalty will be effectively 1 times the legal limit. You get rid of an aggravating factor. It could be a better outcome for the client. Not always, but it can be. And
Right.
that's a nasty part of Minnesota and a couple other states that have that.
Yeah.
But what do you say to the person who is, let's say they're the designated driver, New Year's
Mm.
Eve, designated driver, cops are going to be out all over the place, and they have not had a drop of alcohol all night, but they get pulled over. What should their approach to that situation be? Because I think this is kind of the scary situation that a lot of people find themselves in. So
Your whole
what
car
happens
smells
there?
like alcohol, but you haven't been drinking, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not talking about, I had one. I'm talking about you literally, like, I'm committed to this. I'm going to be the DD. One of my family members used to do, it was like, we don't have Uber in a small town. And so there were a group of people whose job it was, this organization paid people to go hang out at bars, drink water or soda. And then when it was closing time, they would actually just drive people home, and I think for free, or
That's
tips or
amazing.
whatever. But they got, they got paid some minimal amount, but it's like this little side gig, and you get to hang out at a bar with people for the night, and it's kind of fun. But so what do you say to that guy? Doesn't have a lick of alcohol in his system, gets pulled over because cops are pulling everybody over. I don't know, maybe he dropped his phone and swerved a little bit, something like that. How do you approach that situation?
And see, and that is the hardest, but yet the easiest question you could possibly get, right, as a criminal defense lawyer, or DUI specialist, whatever. It's one of those questions where if you truly, truly, truly have not had a drop of anything whatsoever, and by the way, don't forget about that marijuana you smoked 2 weeks ago, which may still be in your system and may still show up as a Delta 9 because you're a medium user, and yeah, you're taking a little break from the pot for a little while. But if they do a blood test, it's going to show up and you will be charged with a DUI, whether you like it or not. If you truly have 100% nothing in your system, maybe it's not a bad idea to blow into that breathalyzer, and maybe it's not the worst idea in the world to submit to that blood draw. But I would be hard pressed if you truly are completely sober. But see, I can't say it. I've watched police officers
I knew it.
again. I'm so conflicted. I can't give a straight answer because it's not possible. I've seen completely dead sober people, and cops are like, I think you're on something. Because they're nervous. They get sweaty palms. You're dealing with an authority figure that has arrest powers. How would you not get nervous?
Exactly. And I think this is an important time to talk about one critical element of DUI law that I don't think people understand. You blowing something, a result, or getting a blood draw result isn't actually the criminal act. The criminal act is being under the influence, and those generate presumptions that are really hard to rebut that you're under the influence. We've decided if your blood alcohol content registers a 0.08, that you are presumptively under the influence of alcohol to your detriment and unable to make safe decisions in a vehicle. But if you are at a 0.04, you may still be under the influence according to the law. And it's based on how you're driving and how you respond to that field sobriety test. So let's say the cop does a field sobriety test. You're unable to walk into a straight line. I don't know. You have an inner ear issue. Who knows?
Sure.
You're unable to say your ZYXs because it's really freaking irritating to figure that out. And you may be stressed for the day. Maybe you're short on sleep. And so you're just not so good at following that pen around when he's moving it in front of your face. So in this case, you can end up generating evidence against you that they can use. And their case is going to be tougher if they don't have that breathalyzer result or the blood draw result, but it's not unwinnable for the prosecution, and it's still going to cost you a ton of money.
Exactly. And this kind of goes back to your original question, that I'm going to merge those two together.
Yeah.
Basically, so going back, when the police officer is gathering their data, the more you give them, the better you make the case for the prosecution. That's the bottom line. So give them as little evidence as possible, regardless of your level of sobriety, whenever you can. Because now that is going to generate a citation, a report, whatever you call it in your state. It's a piece of paper that's going to outline what the cops saw, heard, smelled, etc. And any field sobriety tests they have done on you, and a breath test they have done on you, or a blood test or a urine test, and the results thereof. And a lot of attorneys will look at that piece of paper and they will determine the entire case of where it's going to go, how it's going to go from that one piece of paper. And this is where the biggest mistake lies between DUI practitioners and non-DUI practitioners. The non-DUI practitioner looks at it and goes, yeah, you're screwed, man. Just take the deal. I can probably get you minimums with no jail time. You'll lose your license, pay a few fines, do some classes, you'll be all right. That's it. That's all they can do, because they look at it as the end all and be all. The citation, not in all cases. I mean, I have cases out in the boonies in Kentucky here where truly all I have is a citation, but there's still more than a citation. But in most cases, in the bigger cities, you have video, you have 911 calls, you have the CAD, which is a computer-assisted dispatch. You may have hospital notes. You may have a blood kit, which is about this thick, and it's just one little blood draw that they've conducted. You have body cameras, dash cameras. You may have badge cameras, jail cameras, breathalyzer room cameras. You may have witness bystander cell phone videos, Facebook. I mean, there is so much, and especially forget, this is not even touching on the intoxilizer machine cases where you also have stacks of information that you can gather. And this is the other 95%, the real meat of the case, where attorneys who charge $500 a DUI don't have the resources, because you can't do it for $500, all this research and all this work, and get to the bottom. Because this is what I tell all my clients. You never know what you're going to find until you start digging.
Right.
Because there's a mountain of evidence. And if something is out of place, I mean, the simplest of cases I had the other day, where it just so happened that the breathalyzer technician had their certificate lapse, and it was a breath case. It is the simplest of things, but if we haven't looked prior to, litigating it, or while litigating it, we would have had no idea that and they blew over 0.08. It's 1.3 something, I believe. And that number can't come in now because they weren't certified. That's a technical BS way of getting that number thrown out, but it's a way of getting that number thrown out. And that's all that matters. And if we hadn't looked, we wouldn't have found it. So that's just one small example. And of course, it goes a lot deeper than that. And a lot of prosecutors, by the way, they will try cases. They will try all sorts of cases. Even if I've had cases where it's just a refusal with a citation that consists of 2 lines with no video, basically with zero evidence. And some prosecutors will still test your mettle, especially if you're a new practitioner. So sometimes giving them absolutely less than 0 can still land you in a jury trial, and still spending thousands of dollars on a criminal defense lawyer. And Kentucky is not different from other states. In many states, prosecutors may even use your case as cannon fodder to beef up their own resume or get some practice in. You never know. Prosecutors are egomaniacs. They're lawyers, just like criminal defense lawyers are. We're all egomaniacs. And we have egos that we're trying to maintain, and I get it. And unfortunately, again, innocent, sometimes not so innocent clients get caught in those clogs of this machine, and it's brutal to watch because people's lives are on the line, and for us it's like a chess game, and our clients are the pieces. It can be very depressing sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean that's all of law, right? Like you get a client caught up in a war of egos, or a war of like, oh, I have this theory that I think I can make a thing, or whatever it may be. The aims of the lawyer come into play because it's a human system run by humans, so it's inherently broken. I've got some comments from the chat I want to read, and then I want to ask you a little bit more about the art. This is something that's great on your channel. The art of breaking down very credible witnesses on the stand, and attacking that presumed credibility, the blue privilege, I'll call it. So we'll get there in a minute, because that's, if I could suggest any of your videos to people, it's ones where you do this particular thing, and I think it's great. Richard Grubber says, sold my first commissioned holster. Can I get a toast to a possible future where I'm not working in an awful warehouse job, but doing something I enjoy? Absolutely. It's kind of a thing on my channel, by the way. People will send in a super chat and request a toast of some sort. So I will not be driving, so I won't require your services, but I'm going to have a little bit of whiskey to go with them. So.
I will toast with you with my non-brand name yellow drink.
Sounds good. To Richard Grubber, I never know how to say your name, man. Selling his first thing, the first product of this man's labor being transacted into money that is representative of his labor, his skill, and his passion. May many more products be crafted and sold, and may you find freedom from the drudgery of the warehouse. Cheers, brother.
Here, here.
All right. Zachary B says, did you literally end "you are here" with your visit? I know you know, doctor. No comment. No comment. I don't know, man. They have not had shows in a little while. I don't know exactly what's going on. I would feel bad if I was the destruction of a show, but I would also feel very proud of myself. I didn't mean to. It's not my fault. Rosset says, I'm going to destroy your soul/palate this Friday. That sounds terrible. Thank you. Let's see. We've got Neil says, my wife works in a DUI law firm, and some of the stories I hear run the range from yawn to holy crap, what? So hats off to you, and I will be signing up. As a child of the 60s, DUI was much different when I wasn't young and stupid. When I wasn't young and stupid? That's a weird way to phrase that, but yeah. DUI law certainly has changed quite a bit over the range of my awareness. Casey says, Nick, I got into law too because of you, and I don't know how to feel about that. Maps need to be pinned to the walls. Anyways, keep it real, buddy. Hey, thank you, Casey. C. Goody says, everyone should check out the DUI guy. What he does to cops on the witness stand is absolutely incredible to witness. Definitely worth a watch and a sub. And that's where we're going to go in just a minute. Barnabas Wizard Spook. Okay. Says, this super chat is brought to you by my hot and spicy tax return. What whiskey are you drinking tonight, Ricada? I found this delightful bottle of Joseph Magnus straight bourbon whiskey. It is finished in sherry and cognac casks. It is delicious, and it has this rich kind of velvety creaminess of the cognac, which I was not suspecting. It's very, very good. Thank you. And I'm very glad you got a tax return. I did my taxes last night and wanted to get into rope crafting after that. It was not for me, for the politicians. That's who deserves it, in my opinion. Contrarian 420, that's a little spicy. Contrarian 420 says, how many DUI offenders would you guess that you have gotten off that then went on to reoffend and kill innocents? At least a few, right? Must be a difficult moral conundrum. No. What do you think about that? Are you aware of anyone who's gone on to
see? I don't know why people, this is probably the 20th time I hear this question.
Sure.
I think these are your moral, righteous, I've never done wrong, I've never killed an ant in my life types of folks who don't understand, as I've already alluded to. First of all, the number is 0. Okay, let me just answer the question outright. First of all,
I was going to say, you're dodging the question, counselor.
right? With such a lawyer way of going about things, you're droning on, and you haven't even given us an answer yet.
He's droning on. Answer the same as a dead family of Mormon children. I mean, come on. No, go ahead.
It's right. It's the group of people, the vast majority of people, they never go on to reoffend ever again, because your mom or your grandma or your wife or whatever, it can only die once or leave you once. Okay, it doesn't happen over and over and over unless they are maybe masochistic and they like that sort of thing and they're looking for that next divorce.
Look, I lost a lot of grandmas in college. I'm just saying, quite a few of them, right? Right around finals time, grandmas were dropping out of ceilings. They were falling off of cliffs. This is a bad time to be a grandma. Finals week.
Ain't that the truth? But now I'm talking the real grandmas, Nick. The real grandmas.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I have never in my entire career had that happen. I hope it never will, because it will probably be the most painful experience I will ever experience. If I truly thought, because listen, people think you get all these criminals and these psychopaths off on technicalities, and that's not the case. Sure, sometimes you win on a technicality, but the majority of cases that we do win, we win for valid reasons, whether legal, factual, even constitutional. And people are people. They learn their lessons. Again, they're not these maniacs who go, oh my God, I beat my first DUI. Let's see how many more I can get and beat them one after the other.
Well, and real quick, the difference between winning your first DUI, assuming it's a misdemeanor DUI, there's no accident, no one dies or anything like that. The difference between beating your first DUI and losing your first DUI isn't actually that much, practically speaking, because assuming you take it to trial, the process is the punishment for these people. They're under this accusation. They get stigmatized by it. There may be an embarrassing video of them that gets aired on a YouTube channel or court TV or who knows what. And they pay out quite a bit of money, and they may be on probation with like a no alcohol or other substance restriction for 6 months, a year. If you got one of these, like a misdemeanor DUI, and were on probation right when COVID struck, you spent 2 years on probation waiting for your case to go to court, and you couldn't drink alcohol for 2 years, and you had to pay for the privilege of going in and doing random breathalyzers and all of this stuff. That is a prison sentence for a lot of people. And so, again, we're talking about misdemeanor DUIs for a first offender, which end up with maybe a license suspension or whatever, but for 6 months or something. But other than that, you're not talking about jail time. Like, you're not, these major prohibitive punishments don't come into play for a lot of people's first DUI offense. So I just wanted to make that point. Like, it's not like them losing that the initial case, again, no deaths involved or anything like that, is going to be all that much different from winning it.
You do have a point. At first, I wasn't sure where you're headed with this, but you're absolutely right, Nick. The process is the punishment. No, even with the least restrictive path, unless they go and cop out, hire a much cheaper lawyer, just want to get that plea and get it over with. I don't deal with those types of cases. I deal with individuals, and I can't tell you how many times people have called me and they're like, yeah, I have this case, and they tell me the facts and what they want to do, and I flat out on the phone tell them, look, I don't think I'm the right lawyer for you. You hire me when you want to fight the case, when we may need an expert, and you sincerely, truly believe you are innocent, or even if you're not innocent, but you still want to fight it because you think there's a chance of winning because you have good facts. And the law says, and this is where the well, how can you ethically sleep at night conundrum. This is the other question that I'm
How have you
surprised that
not even killed yourself yet?
like, right, exactly. Is the question of, how do you represent someone who walks into your office and says, I did it? Well, welcome to the American criminal justice system that literally says in front, big bold letters on the front of the cover, you can hold the prosecution to their burden of proof. And if the prosecution cannot prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, since you as the criminal defense attorney, the Supreme Court has said, have zero duty when it comes to the truth. You do not have a burden. We have a different job. The prosecutor is there to find the truth. We are there to make sure that we're there. That's about it.
No, it's great. It's great. It's an important thing. And really, like, it's not limited to DUI, right? You get someone out of a theft charge and they go on and stab an old lady. I mean, you still got them out of the theft charge. And if you didn't, they might have been spending 6 months in county jail and not have stabbed an old lady. You can't know what's going to happen to someone, and what they might do in the future can't impact your representation or your choices. It's unfortunate when something like that happens, but that's just the way it goes. People will make their own choices after you're long done with them. And I would wager every DUI attorney would much rather be able to give a stern talking to their client and have them never ever reoffend than to get that sweet repeat business. Right? Like,
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. It's because one of the reasons I never got into doing DUI, aside from the technical aspects of it, is because for me, it would be really hard if I defended someone and they did like careen into my family or another family. So I don't condemn people for it, but I just never wanted to get into that field of practice. That was my choice. But it's like, that's just the reality of doing this work, is you defend people and then they go make their choices and you can't stop them from it. But people who are habitual criminal actors, like, you kind of get a feel for it. I mean,
very quickly.
And they don't keep winning. They're betting against the house on that oftentimes, unless you're talking about super connected people. Yes. Okay. Sure. Super moneyed, super connected people are different. That's the overwhelming minority of actual criminal cases. Okay. Callan Shaw, Indie Games. This is a question for DUI guy. You mentioned pot and then seconds later agreeing to a breathalyzer. Is there anything where agreeing to something like a field sobriety or breathalyzer implies consent to something like a piss/blood test?
So I think it obviously depends on the jurisdiction, but here's the bottom line. The police officer has full discretion as to what tests to request that you submit to. So if they initially suspect alcohol, let's say, for whatever reason, maybe they thought they smelled it in the car, but they didn't realize they didn't smell it on your person because you were driving 3 drunk bastards home from the bar and you're the DD, right? And they do a breathalyzer on you at the station and you blow 000. Well, now the cop is going to be sitting there, scratching his head going, but you're obviously on something. I mean, I wasn't born yesterday. I was born the day before yesterday. So I know that there's something more going on here. And they're like, okay, you know what? I want you to submit to a blood draw for me now. And then, or a urine test for me now. And now you have the option, do I want to consent to this one or do I want to refuse this one? Some states have, like Tennessee, they have this thing called no refusal weekend, which is a thing of nightmares. I am not kidding. They will strap you to a gurney, tie you down, and forcefully extract the fluids from your living corpse, basically.
Look, if you want to tie me down and extract some fluids, it better be a lot more fun than a needle. That's all I'm saying.
So
at least with the clamps on.
No comment on that, Nick. Some states, and at that point, you choose to either acquiesce to the officer's new request now that you've complied with the original one for the breath, now you get to choose. Do I give them more, or do I now hold my ground and say no, if you can, if you have that option? If you still do have that option, I mean, obviously it looks worse on the officer because now they have made a first failed decision. They suspected alcohol, and now they decided to go further. So it looks bad on the cop. Again, a trained practitioner will be able to notice that mistake. I mean, a rookie probably wouldn't catch that right out of the gate, but it's something that you can use. It's fodder. It's not going to win or lose a case. You know, as Nick and I already talked about, it is a totality of the circumstances. And this is what I think a lot of prosecutors miss. And what I've learned over the years trying these cases day in and day out, a prosecutor may think that, you know, they have a number, they have a rec, they have a pretty decent case, maybe some bad field sobriety tests. But if overall the client looks sober, this is literally the bottom line, because video will win 100 times out of 100, no matter how many cops that prosecutor puts on the stand and says, I believe he was drunk, I believe he was drunk, I believe he was drunk. If
Right.
the jury is going to sit there, look at the video, go, you know what? That's reasonable doubt. And you, as a good criminal defense attorney, will literally make a mountain out of this molehill and hopefully get that acquittal. So every case is different. Every case hinges on its own facts. But that is the number one most common prosecutorial mistake I've noticed, where they get overly confident in like the side facts and they miss the biggest picture that's literally standing right in front of them. They underestimate the human element. They get too caught up in their egos.
See, that's great, because I think a lot of attorneys, and I know that I've kind of fallen into this trap. Even again, in my, I never try to overrepresent my practice. It was a limited practice in a small town, solo practitioner for about 3 years before I found out that drinking and telling jokes on YouTube was a lot more fun. So I never try to overrepresent my practice, but even in my small experience, limited experience, I would find myself like, I'm the lawyer. I'm supposed to find the thing, right? I'm supposed to dig for that little nugget that I can pull out and find a lump of gold attached to it in this case, in this paperwork. And sometimes you do ignore the person that's sitting right there, who oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes can be their best advocate. Either their presentation at the time, or their personality and personability, you know, on a witness stand, or even in negotiations and stuff like that. There is the ability for someone to get out of stuff just by being themselves, not at their worst time in their life when they're caught on a DUI camera or some other type of thing. And so that's a great nugget. Like, remember, you have this mountain of evidence right here that the prosecutor doesn't have, and that's the person themselves.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. Brian Nelson says, the state of North Carolina gave me a DUI when I refused their breathalyzer. I hired a guy, then requested military orders out of state. Good luck punishing a guy you can never find in North Carolina. Well, good job on that one, Brian. That's one way to get out of it. The Squid says, I got my biannual speeding ticket the other day. It's going to be the first ticket I hire a lawyer for, because Illinois cops are cucks and made a 10-cop speed trap where the speed limit changes from 70 to 65. What did they get you for? Oh, he says, don't get me wrong, I still broke the law speeding, but the cops can suck at making a speed trap that allows them to get me for 18 over instead of 13 over. Ooh. I used to get speeding tickets all the time. And then when I got a nicer car, like not a nice car, just I used to drive a Ford Escort and then a Dodge Caliber because I was young and broke. And it was once I got out of that and I got a minivan that had some car seats in it. And then I got my, like, I drive a Ford Fusion sedan, and like those two things, like, whew, I never got a speeding ticket again. It was amazing. Like, oh, I don't know what magic sauce that was, but it worked. Oh, I also stopped answering any questions during the stop. Do you do speeding ticket defense? Because that's a really niche and interesting practice as well.
Sure, sure. I mean, at this point, because of the things that our county attorney has done here, like institute his own little traffic program, has definitely dried up a lot of speeding ticket business. So mostly about 90% of the tickets I do are either commercial driver's license tickets where the county attorney's office has standing orders of non-negotiation policy.
Sure.
They're basically like terrorists. They don't negotiate, either plea or take it to trial. Or the other half is 26 or greater. That's our cutoff. I know every state is different. Ours is 26. At which point, if you just pay the ticket, you will have your license suspended for 6 months, or at least trigger a suspension hearing. So those two are pretty much 90% of the tickets we do. I mean, I do get the occasional. I actually had one today. I think it was like a 10 over, and the guy was just asking me a question like, "Do I do the program?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, just do the program." You know, I used to, like 5, 6 years ago, I used to try and sell them like, "No, I can try and maybe get you something better. You want the lawyer on your side." Now I'm just like, "Dude, I don't need your business. Go do your thing. You got this."
Often that's what people want. Like, keep it off my record, right? Like, change the deal, get me deferred adjudication, get me something. I'll pay double or triple a ticket to keep it off of my record. Like, call me a public nuisance. I don't care. Like, give me a petty misdemeanor charge instead of that, or yeah, deferred adjudication, no speeding tickets for 6 months or whatever. Please, give me that 10 times out of 10.
Sure.
And I'm happy, and I'll pay plenty more. Court, I'll help you out on that one. I hate it, but man, I thought well, I was just down in Texas, and I rented a Dodge Challenger,
Mm.
and I was cruising a little bit, and I thought I was going to get pulled over, and I was ready for it. I was like, I haven't gotten a ticket in like 10 years. I don't care. Pull me over doing 105.
I got points to burn.
JL says something diabetes and false DUI positives, allegedly. Is that a thing that you've encountered, that diabetes impacts those results?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. If you are having a diabetic episode,
Oh, sure, yeah.
the acetone on the breath will actually give false positives in a lot of these breathalyzer machines if they don't have the proper filtration, because acetone mimics ethanol when they don't have the proper filters built in. And by the way, the filters are only like, I think $15 for the option or something like that on some machines, and some departments, let's call it accidentally and completely unintentionally, don't pay the $15 to make sure that that bloody filter, which helps not convict innocent people, is omitted from their repertoire.
So these are high blood sugar episodes or low blood sugar episodes?
I actually don't have the answer to that. I don't know.
Okay.
I just know if you're diabetic, I don't know if it goes both ways either, honestly.
Yeah, well, because when someone first mentioned diabetic, and then I thought about it, I went to, I know I have diabetics in my family. Low blood sugar diabetics, they act really weird. They act drunk. They're slow. Their words can slur. They can get off on weird tangents. They're not following a conversation. So that's what I was thinking. But then you went to the chemical aspect of there's acetone, I think you said, in their breath that can trigger the breathalyzer. And I didn't know about that. So, okay. The chat saying that's for high blood sugar. They also say that's for low. Thanks, chat. Now I don't know who to believe.
It might be both. I mean, because think about it. When you're diabetic, your body is just not processing sugar properly. So whether you're low or you're high on the blood sugar scale, you're going to be acting differently. So you're presumed by a bystander who doesn't know you from Adam, they're on something. They're intoxicated by something. Their first thought is not, oh, this individual must be diabetic. Let's make sure we get them a Snickers bar to get them up to their proper blood sugar levels, you know. So, and if they give them a breathalyzer, and this is a classic example, I've actually seen, I haven't had a case like this of my own, but there's this organization I belong to called the NCDD, the National College for DUI Defense. It is
Okay.
the one of two national groups, the other one being the DUI DLA, which is the DUI Defense Lawyer Association, I think they're called. But I primarily do deal with NCDD. In one of the seminars, they showed us a video, and it was I'll spoil it. Sorry, spoiler alert. It was a diabetic individual. We didn't know about it at the time in the beginning, but as we were just watching it, and at the end they asked, like, do you think that individual was under the influence of something? And raise your hand, and pretty much everybody was like, yeah, absolutely, with no other facts, just looking at this video, they're 100% intoxicated on something. I don't know what, looks like a depressant. And they're like, yeah, they're diabetic, and they were going through a diabetic episode, 0 alcohol, 0 drugs, nothing involved. And we're all like, holy crap, this is real, this is possible.
Oh, when one of my family members in particular has a low blood sugar, it's impossible, because they're like super into politics and they want to talk to you all the time, and the conversations get great because it's like, where is this going? But like you can tell they are a different person. But yeah, that's that's wild. C. Neil says, was young and stupid, autocorrect, and my typing suck. Oh, sorry. There you go. Thank you, buddy, for that. Gerard Garvin says, I think Nick Ricada, listen and believe all Alice's. So apparently, if your name is Alice, I automatically believe you. So thank you for that. Name 530 says, time for the real question. God damn it, I hate you guys. Balls or no balls? Yeah. So that,
is this a channel thing? What am I missing?
yeah. Okay. I don't know if we want to go. This is degeneracy. How are you with degeneracy, by the way? Are you degenerate? Are you like a, have you heard of,
well, I'm on mixed channel, right?
your life and career are already over.
Pretty much.
Are you an anime fan at all? Like, do you watch anime?
Not so much anymore. When I was younger.
Yeah.
But
okay. Well, like
Dragon Balls. Are we talking about Dragon Ball Z?
Yeah, like Dragon Ball Z, or like Evangelion, Cowboy Bebop. These are some of the bigger names that are out there.
I used to when I was much younger, but I don't indulge much anymore.
You're a better person than most.
If you say so. I'm watching Big Mouth right now, if that tells you anything, and I'm absolutely in love with that show.
What is Big Mouth?
You have to check it out, Nick. It's the most grotesque, absurd, sexual debauchery you will have ever experienced in your life in a cartoon show.
Okay, well, now I'm going to ask you the balls or no balls question. You opened the door, sir. You opened the door, counsel.
I was waiting for it.
Okay, so in anime, there's a concept called futanari, which is there's an anime female character who is biologically female, but also has a giant penis for whatever purposes that may be required.
So hold on, you're not talking about anime. You're talking about hentai.
I mean, sometimes.
Okay, anime, by my definition of anime is drastically different from Chad's definition of anime.
Okay, so wait a minute though. You're like, well, I don't watch anime, but hentai now. Let's talk.
Oh, come on, who doesn't know? I'm familiar. So go ahead. All right. So female with both genitalia.
Well, sorry, they have a penis. This is the hypothetical. Should the giant penis have balls or not have balls in this scenario? This is a.
Oh boy. And the chat, I'm guessing, is split. We have 50% going for it should, the other half going it should not. See, in my experience of the hentai realm, is that the penis is actually the clitoris that is enlarged. So that would make absolutely no sense that balls would be present, because it's part of the same female anatomy. It's the clitoris that enlarges and creates this shaft that is then used for penetration purposes. So logic would dictate balls would first of all ruin the entire thing to begin with, and secondly, balls are simply nonsensical in that scenario. So I'm with the no balls group
You know,
henceforth.
I was prepared to go into the trenches and fight against you and like lob mortar shells in your direction, but that was expertly argued and presented. What am I supposed to say to that? You gave me my favorite answer to that was now hentai in my experience, and after that I'm like, okay, I'm with you. You're good. You're good, man.
I don't know
uh,
if to be honored or ashamed, but I'll take a bit of both.
I mean, it's going on your tombstone, like hentai in my experience. ... That's your epitaph on your tombstone. Oh my God, what a disaster. Kaya Wee says, just curious, as more states have been legalizing marijuana, medical and recreational, have you noticed an impact on DUI, DWI cases, e.g. the number or type of cases?
Well, in Kentucky, marijuana is still illegal completely. We had a bill for like the upteenth time on the books, ready to be passed, but it never passed. So like the most basic of precepts of medical marijuana is still doesn't exist in Kentucky,
God.
which is extremely unfortunate. Like you have no idea how this. I mean, I saw it coming a mile away because of the state. I'm like, I always say we're going to be number 47 after Alabama to
Yeah.
legalize marijuana. It's just depressing, but there's nothing I can do. And have I seen a? I mean, yeah, I've always wanted to like. I want this case, and I haven't gotten it yet. It would be like the perfect marijuana DUI. You know, the individual. I came close. I have one that's super close, but he doesn't have a medical card, and it's basically the facts are. You know, he's a regular user. You know, he knows exactly what weed does to him or her. They smoke on a daily basis, multiple times per day. They're gonna, you know, on a blood result that's going to be like probably in the 50s of nanograms per milliliter in their blood,
Right.
which you would imagine, you know, an individual who's never used, they would be so blitzed out of their skull, they would probably wouldn't even be able to start the car. But because this individual has built up a tolerance, if they had like a medical card from another state, could I try the case and argue to a jury that this is their normal state of being and they have been, this is a prescribed medication, it's just not legal here? I'm basically saying all but jury nullification without saying jury nullification. Like
Yeah.
that's the ultimate case, the penultimate marijuana DUI, but I haven't gotten close to that yet. Usually it's just the occasional user with no card.
You bring up something really important about marijuana DUI cases, which is that so alcohol tolerance is there for sure, but the general idea is that impairment to some degree reliably starts around a 0.08. That's what Congresses have determined. And I mean, I might not agree with that. A habitual drinker, like guys I went to law school with, they would put down 8 beers while I have one drink, and then they'd drive home or whatever. And I'm like, how the fuck do you function like this? But you know, they could do that. It was probably illegal, but they could actually function and get home and not kill a family or whatever. So there's that. Weed is way different. I mean, it is a distinctly different animal, and Colorado being kind of the longest state history with this sort of issue, having full legalization, they're having trouble figuring out what level of nanogram per milliliter intoxication would work as a presumptive intoxicant, because for some people it's 5, for other people it's 55, and there's no consistency. There's not even consistency with regular versus irregular users. They just the high is a percepted state, and it's entirely subjective. And so they haven't done that. So it's a real challenge for them to do. It's a challenge for them, for the prosecutors, for the lawmakers to try and figure out a standard with something that is inherently not standard.
Right.
So it's kind of crazy. I mean, I'm not a huge, like, I want legal marijuana everywhere. I think it's just time, but I'm not a big fan of weed. I don't like the way it makes me feel at all. Personally, it puts me too out of it, and I'm not a fan of that experience. But I know a lot of people are, and I think it's crazy. But I also please don't drive on weed. But the other problem with weed is, and maybe I'm missing something here, but it takes a very long time to metabolize out of your blood. It's stored in fat cells, and it's often stored in unaccessible fat cells. And the older you get, the longer your fat cells hang around, the less exercise that you do. So I feel like you could have compounding amounts, but maybe I'm talking about that metabolized weed that sits in there versus the active THC ingredient, which has yet to be metabolized. Am I missing something there, or is there a problem or overlap?
No, you're pretty much right on the money. And you're dealing with an inexperienced prosecutor, because I've had cases where they show me blood results and I look at them and I go, okay, where's the DUI? What are you asking? What are you going to offer on this case? Are you dismissing it? And they look at me like, dismissing? What are you talking about? I have 12 nanograms per milliliter. And I turn the page back to them and I say, read what it says. And they're like, yeah, delta 9 COOH. I'm like, do you know what those letters mean?
Right.
And I go, that's the metabolite. This is not the active metabolite. This is the processed metabolite. This is what THC leaves behind after the body is done with it. And they're like, oh,
yeah,
I'll give you reckless driving. I'm like, all right, there you go.
Okay. Let's see. JM says, isn't it now balls, no balls, or baldo? No, it's not. You stop it. And Salty Dog says, watch his big mouth and differentiated between hentai and anime. He belongs to the wall, Nick. Oh my goodness. Terrible. Okay. I wanted to, a long time ago, I said I wanted to get into this, and we can make this. I know you don't have too much more time because it's getting really late and you got to be up. But I wanted to get into, if you will indulge me, sort of the subject of, you mentioned this earlier, bringing in experts for DUI cases, and also how you navigate the expertise required for this in a courtroom. Oh, shoot. And how you deconstruct the cop. We might have to pick a topic. Let's do the cop one first, because I think that's more interesting. That's
I can go for a little bit. I can go for a little bit. But okay. So what's the first question? What do you want me to talk about?
Let's talk about cops, because this is the bulk of what I've seen on your channel, is you taking apart a police officer on the witness stand. And just as a preface to the chat, police officers, they come in uniform just because they're always just barely able to make it in on duty, and they're going to come in uniform, and they're going to sit down, and they absorb credibility from many juries, and certainly from judges who work with these police officers in case after case after case, where the cop will come in. That cop may actually take a day off and testify in 8 or 9 different hearings in front of that judge in a given day or couple day period. They become almost coworkers. So you've got this ball of presumed credibility sitting on the stand. Everything they say is presumed true when no other witness kind of gets that deference. How do you manage this? And you have lots of videos about it, so I think it's a good subject for you.
Sure. Well, rule number 1, know thy enemy. If you read Sun Tzu, he who knows himself, well, how does he say it? He says, he who does not know himself nor thy enemy will lose every time. He who knows thy enemy but not thyself will lose about 50% of the time. But he who knows thy enemy and knows thyself is able to win, or how does he put it? Will enjoy more victories than anyone could imagine. And that's essentially what is the practice of law. The more because it's a battle, it's a war. The cross-examination portion is an actual verbal battle that you are having with another individual in an open setting, where there are very specific rules and there's a very specific way of going about the process. So knowing everything about yourself as much as you can as an individual, that goes without saying, but now you have to know everything you can gather about the individual you're about to question. Their training, their experience, when did they graduate, what was their background, did they go straight through after they graduated high school and became a cop, did they get a couple years of college in there? Basically, you're trying to figure out who your person is. Are they an educated cop or are they a less educated cop? You know, that's step number one. Number two, you want to find out how far away from the academy they are. Did they graduate last year, 2 years ago, or 15 years ago? That gives you two pieces of information. You know, they may be super comfortable. They already forgot half their stuff because they haven't revisited it in the last 7 or 8 years. Or they're actually a very professional career cop who really knows their stuff backwards and forwards. And if you're not careful, will make you look like the wet spot and leave a wet spot where you used to be. So you got to be prepared for that witness. And last but not least, of course, the most important, you got to know their training, their manual, what year did they complete the DUI course. So that will give you insight as to which manual they were trained under. Certain language has been removed from later manuals. So if they were trained on DUIs 15 years ago when the 2006 manual was in effect, there's certain things you can use in that manual to poke holes, greater holes in the prosecution's case, because you can ask those questions. And of course, you're always going to run into the issue. You got to be ready. Cops are lying scumbags. That's who they are. They will take the stand. They will lie through their teeth without any shame, without any. Their face will not change color as they lie through their teeth about the entire experience. It is actually quite depressing to watch. But once you accept it as a universal truth, it is much easier to deal with than having this illusion of everything will be fine. And
And again, I did experience, but this is just how prevalent it is. You find out right away in the practice of criminal law that cops lie as a matter of their profession. They just do. They lie to the person in the field. They lie to the people. They have no duty to tell the truth in an interrogation or to someone that they're investigating or to someone that they even encounter. They can misrepresent so long as they can always misrepresent their authority, their ability to do whatever, because it's the person's duty to know when they can refuse, right? Like, so a cop can walk up to you, you're doing nothing, and say, "Hey, show me your identification, scumbag." And you have to be able to know that, yeah, you don't have any reason to ask that. You have no grounds to investigate me and refuse, and be brazen enough to say, "No, I'm leaving now," and start walking away. And when that cop, if he decides to detain you, which he can decide to detain you, you will have to fight that later, that detention later. But he can be wrong. He can lie. He can misrepresent it. He just may not be able to use what he finds from the detention. And for some cops and for some instances, that's a small price to pay for their ultimate aim. But they lied there. And that, in my opinion and experience, that translates straight to the witness stand. And it's crazy. One thing you touched on that I want to get to, you said you have to know the officer. So what kind of research background, what do you do? Like, how much digging do you do when you go, this is my witness list of officers who are involved on this case? I mean, I assume you practice enough in the same area, you're going to know some of them, but other guys,
Sure.
how you get a fresh name? What's your process?
Fresh name, I go to the DOCJT first and foremost, the Department of Criminal Justice Training. They're going to have the police officer's file with respect to when they completed the academy, what courses did they take, and now I know basically their entire cop curriculum, everything, every class they ever took, I have in my possession. Then we go to their department of where they've been a police officer, and we get their file, their disciplinary file, any complaints, any accolades, anything positive. Like I've had many files where I go sift through, and there are letters tons of letters of individuals who would like to, what's the word, commendate, I guess, give accolades to, signed by their chief, their commander, whoever, depending on how big the department is, their captain maybe,
Sure.
saying, you did a great job on this case, and this person was very thankful the way you helped their daughter out that one day. It's you see everything. You see, well, I shouldn't say everything, but everything that's been put on paper, you should be able to receive. As a Joe citizen, you may not have that luxury of discovery. You just FOIA. I mean, a lot of departments force us to FOIA, which is the Freedom of Information Act
Right.
request. It's a FOIA request for those unfamiliar. They force us. They're like, look, the only way you can get it is if you FOIA it. And we're like, okay, here you go. Here's our FOIA, and then we get it. And you're able to, news stations use that all the time.
Right.
So those two, and the simplest of things, Google their name. Just Google it. You'll be surprised. We had one case very recently, where there was a name, and I was not familiar with that name, and I started looking around and digging. And last summer, I had a case where a Kentucky State Police trooper has done some abhorrent things on the side of the road to my client. I mean, he acted, and the only way I could compare him, and I'm sorry to those who may be offended if there are any Nazis in the crowd, he acted like a Nazi. He truly did. Like we had a trial that was scheduled to go, and in my opening, I was going to compare 1939 Poland to September 17th, 2019, what my client had to deal with.
Can you elaborate on like an idea of some of these things, or because some people use Nazi in a hyperbolic way a lot lately? I get the feeling you're not, so I'm kind of curious. But if you can't talk too much about the details, that's fine. But
well, I don't want to go too deep because it's a very, very fact specific case. But
sure.
in a nutshell, my client was already pulled over on the side of the road on a dark highway. He was on a highway traveling home, and he pulled over because I swear he's one of those people. He took a phone call. He stopped to talk to his girlfriend to let her know that he's okay. And
Oh, and he didn't just keep driving with the phone. He actually did the pullover, and oh my God, what a saint.
and the cop was doing one of those security checks. Are you okay? Or whatever it's called, inventory checks. Are you okay? Is there anything that you need? And he was basically telling him, like, buddy, I'm good, move on. And the cop wouldn't leave him alone. And he started recording, and I have portions of that video. He started recording the interaction, and I can't remember, it's been a while, and we never got a chance to try the case, so the facts are not as fresh as I would like them to be in my head. But I can't remember if he ended up breaking the window, or I think my client actually ended up opening the car door. I would have remembered the window breaking. I don't think it broke.
Sure.
But finally, eventually, he succumbed. He opened the car door, and just the profanities that were leaving the police officer's mouth, like, what are you doing, not complying? How dare you ignore my commands? I'm obviously softening his tone up a little bit, but just the way he acted, like this is his highway, and my client must comply with his directives. And all he was asking, is to get out of the car and provide like identification, where my client was, don't get me wrong, my client was in the wrong too a little bit. He probably should have complied a little sooner, but when he didn't comply, that's when the cop went apeshit and berserk and decided to do all these things. And he basically pulled my client out of the car, by his shirt, and like profanities were being flown by both parties. And then he threw the book at my client by charging him with every possible offense you could think of under the sun, resisting arrest and terroristic threatening. Because my client at this
Ooh.
point was like, what are you gonna do, man? Like, seriously, what is wrong with you? Like, he was
Yeah.
legitimately upset because he did nothing wrong except pull over and make a phone call to his girlfriend that he's fine and dandy.
Which is what
And
they want you to do. they want you to not be like operating the vehicle while using a cell phone unless you're doing the hands-free thing, which the hands-free thing is kind of like, I hate it. Especially like as a lawyer, if I have someone in the car or if I have one of my kids in the car and I get a phone call for my law office or if I get a phone call for this YouTube, I definitely don't want that playing over the in-car speaker. Like, because I'll get people call and say the weirdest stuff ever. And if I've got my kids in the car, I don't want that to happen. So I would prefer the privacy of a handset. And so they want you to actually pull over. So to have them go after someone for doing that is crazy. But like you said,
went overboard with the failure to comply with my directive. And the officer thought because he didn't have a body camera, they don't have body cameras here for Kentucky State Police troopers. But
the technology is just not ready yet.
Exactly, right. Actually, they did for a brief period, but I think they were getting in so much trouble. They're like, okay, we can't show people we actually do this stuff, so they took them off. And my client recorded it, so I think that was the saving grace. So back to the story. So the trooper that we got fired because the day before trial, or the morning of trial, we find out he magically quit the department and is nowhere to be found.
Oh, there you go.
And there is another case that we have with another trooper, also from Kentucky State Police, there's a story out there. This is, I'm going back to the research portion, Google your officers' names because you never know where you're going to find. There is a very shady situation that both the Kentucky State Police trooper in that incident I just told you about, we got him fired. His buddy is now in a different DUI case, and there's a story about them too. So I already know more than I ever would need to know about this buddy of his that now we have a totally different, unrelated case with. And, I already have a starting place. So it doesn't necessarily throw shade on the second police officer, but it definitely gives us insight. And if you read the article, you would know that in that particular scenario, he did do some shady stuff. So it gives us insight to his character. Again, research. If you don't do your research, you will go into the courtroom blindly, deaf, dumb, and blind, because you don't know who you're up against. If you don't know your facts, this is how lawyers lose cases. When you don't know your opponent, you don't know your facts, you don't have a solid defense, you can never go into a courtroom and just see what happens and maybe you're going to get an acquittal. You must have a plan. That's the only way you'll ever win a case. Any case, forget DUI, any case.
Right. So when you've done your research, you know your opponent, what kind of things are you looking for on the day? You're on the witness stand and you're waiting for that thing. How are you going to convince the jury that this guy is the lying scumbag that he is? How does that manifest for you?
Well, it depends. I mean, obviously it depends on the particular case that I'm dealing with, but those who have seen my cross-examination videos on my channel, which is the DUI Guy Plus, those of you who have not, or those of you who have, both categories, I can tell you, it's all about cornering the person to the point where they can no longer logically escape the net that you weave. You're like a spider. You're weaving a very, very careful, the fly, your witness is the fly. The fly doesn't know he's in trouble yet. The fly thinks, all I have to do is flap my wings and I'm out of here and I'm good. And you ask them one question, and this is like the first layer. This is just all the way around. The fly's like, oh, this is nothing. I'm good. I can escape, no problem. And then you go a layer deeper. Okay, and so you agree with this here. Yeah, that's still no danger. And then you just keep going a layer deeper and a layer deeper. And you box them in to the point where the fly goes, wait a minute. Oh, I screwed up big time, didn't I?
You had a video the other day, right? If I remember right, where you basically got the cop to agree to the fact that people often cross, I think it was like the line on the road for valid reasons. Like there's reasons to cross the road, and basically led to the inference that your client, when the cop tried to justify the stop by swerving over the line, that your client had swerved over the line justifiably, and that in the particular case that there was nothing unreasonable about that, and therefore it didn't amount to a sufficient suspicion that they were driving under the influence. Am I getting that right? Did you do a video like that recently?
It wasn't recent. I think I know the one you're talking about. It's the
Might have
it's
popped
my
up for me
trial
recently.
from like 6 or 7 years ago. And I know the video you're talking about. It's the one I think that has the most views. Maybe that's why you thought it was recent,
Yeah, it
because it
probably
was
got
at the top
recommended
of the
to me
list.
lately. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember the exact facts, to be honest, right off the top of my head. But what I can tell you is that's exactly what you're trying to do. You're trying to take the story that's not told. That's basically your job as a criminal defense practitioner, because the cop is going to take the stand, and you already know, for example, in DUI cases, they're basically going to read off their citation, because the case is 6 months, 12 months, 18, 24 months old. They don't remember, especially if they don't have video. They don't remember what happened. And even if there is video, they're just going to testify to everything that you know. And
Right.
your job, and I used to call myself that, I don't do so much anymore, but your job is the gap filler. Sometimes I use the term truth sayer. People don't really like that as much, because you're a criminal defense attorney and you're just as lying a scumbag as that cop there. So you have to prove you're less of a lying scumbag than he is, and then whoever is the lesser of the lying scumbags wins, basically.
Right.
Um, so when you are presented with that scenario, you just want to show the jury what is not there, what is between the lines, the government is not talking about, what are they not mentioning, how he stood and answered all the questions without any issue, how he didn't lose his balance, how he, one of my favorite phrases, he looked sober, he acted sober, he was portrayed on the video as a sober person, if those are my facts. Nothing beats, like I said, when there's a case with no video. I just had one recently, where there was no video, and I thought I had it in the bag. I really did, just because the evidence was so sparse. But I was in a small town, and little did I know the jury was already convicting my client in their heads, because I'm an outsider. My client is an
Yep.
outsider. You're in the wrong place, wrong time, Sonny. And it can end in disaster if you're not careful.
Yeah, that's that's a different, an entirely different dynamic in the courtroom is the locality, right? Like this is our town. You were driving drunk through it. We hate you. You could have killed someone. Maybe you did hit someone, who knows what it is. I wanted to one more sort of thread on this area. Have you noticed, I talked about cops as this ball of like credibility that's just imputed to them, the uniform, the presumption that they know everything because they took like a 3-hour training session 2 years ago or whatever. They're an expert because of a 1-week drug recognition program or something. So all of that gets put on them. Oh, and you mentioned all the letters of commendation, right? Like, oh, look at how many accolades this guy has. He rescued 4 cats last month. So you have all that. Have you noticed though that since 2020, has the perception of cops changed? Because we obviously major news stories with defund the police and Black Lives Matter and various organizations really trying to change the public narrative about cops. And for whatever purposes they have, that's their purposes, but they are trying to change that narrative. Has it had an impact in the courtroom, do you think?
So, if I'm speaking from experience, unfortunately, I haven't had as much as I would have liked since the pandemic. Like you said, we haven't had a trial. So I had a trial in February of 2020. That was my last trial pre-pandemic. And then some jurisdictions were holding trial during the pandemic. My next one was in July of 2021. So I had like almost an 18-month gap between trials. And after that, I still had an additional like 6-month gap. My next one was in January. And then it's starting to flood. So it's really nice. I had like 4 trials this year, and I couldn't have been happier already. And I have many more lined up. Well, from the experience that I have had, I can tell you in the smaller cities, in the smaller counties with small populations, in the boonies, no change whatsoever. As far as I can tell, to them, cops are still these glorified figures who are there to protect and serve their interests. They're glorified, they're protected, they're happy with their police force, and they will defend them to the grave. Why? Because this is my bubby. You know, he defends, he saves my cats. Those were my 4 cats, you know, this past month. Those were all 4 of them were mine, and I'm on your jury. And I'm like, oh crap, I couldn't strike you. I didn't have a valid
nice
reason.
to meet you, Gladys.
Right? Or Ethel.
Yeah.
And so, you know, but in the bigger cities, I've noticed maybe a slight shift. See, the difference is what you see and hear on YouTube. And by the way, try and posting the same content on YouTube as you do Facebook. You are going to get 2 completely, or TikTok, you're going to get 2 completely different results for the exact same content. Yep. You know, YouTube is the more I feel educated, anti-government, pro-gun, anti-police audience that I've been seeing. Whereas like TikTok and Facebook are the complete opposite. They're more like pro-government, pro-police. Maybe not so much. They're both kind of pro-guns, but in the real world, when you're dealing with human beings, it's a soup. It's a mixture of the two, but it's primarily that TikTok and Facebook populace that loves government, respects authority for the most part. Because the ones who don't respect authority, and this is actually, again, true, very much speaking from experience, prosecutors, just like you are very good at finding the ones who are extremely anti-authority, and they will just use their preemptory strikes to get rid of these people. And it's the smart move, because they don't want these anti-authority jury nullification waiting to happen people on their jury, because they become the foreperson, the whole thing goes to crap very fast.
It's funny because the people who are that anti-authority or whatever, they're more likely to be brazen and open about it, which is kind of silly. Like if you're trying to get on a jury to nullify it, like you want to not be so honest, maybe. And I'm not saying lie, but just maybe offer less to the prosecutor, let them know. Or they go full on the other route and they try and be so like ridiculously deceptive that it becomes obvious in the alternative. And I feel like people who are pro-government, pro-police, or the crazy one was the Kim Potter trial up in Minnesota here with the taser lady, right? The taser cop, where you might not have followed, but she shot a guy by accident. She drew her gun. She thought she had her taser. She yells, taser, 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 and then pulls her gun and plugs him, which probably should not have been prosecuted under mistake of fact, but was prosecuted. She ended up losing the case, so she got 2 years in prison for it. But the jurors, as we're listening to jury selection, it was amazing because the people who you knew the government were going to get rid of in that case were like, they were so honest about their positions in favor of kind of like either anti this particular prosecution, or in this case, pro cop, right? Like this is a police officer who was charged. They're so upfront about it that they would get thrown off immediately. And then there were some people who were kind of seemed like they might be on her side, but were subversive. Like you could read between the lines and say, no, this person really doesn't like police. They don't like authority. This is a 22-year-old college student, right? Like they're not into this sort of thing. It was really interesting dynamic to see people. It's like you're pro defendants, I feel like they tend to be very open about their beliefs and get thrown off a lot. But maybe I'm mistaken that.
No,
I don't know.
no. I think you have a valid point, and see, the thing is with police actions, the Supreme Court has been so overly protective of qualified immunity because, and I understand where they're coming from, but the problem is, how do you square it away with other rights of individuals? And it's damn near impossible
Yeah.
because you are dealing with a select group of people that are given pure rights to institute deadly force against the general population if they, in their discretion, deem it necessary to protect life, limb of their own or somebody else. And I mean, we all really have that right. It's called self-defense, defense of others. But how often is that truly being used? For the most part, it's the government. 98% of the time is the government versus Joe citizen.
Yeah, they seem to have more of that right than me. Like I have it, but they seem to really have it. Like
Yeah.
some of these police shootings, you're like, I mean, now the Kim Potter one, I found kind of interesting because on the Kim Potter one, I felt like she was actually, again, under the doctrine of mistake of fact. I don't think she could have manifested the necessary criminal intent to pull the trigger. She didn't know she had a gun in her hand. All of the testimony seemed to indicate that wasn't pretext, that was her literally thinking she had a taser at the time. After she shoots him, she's repentant. She's weeping openly, like she can't believe what she's done. And it's like, so I thought that, but then you see other cases where you're like, man, it seems like they just shot that guy. And if I shot the guy in the same instance, I'm in prison forever. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting from some of these, the police shootings and police use of force sometimes. Even if I think that they might be justified under the law, I more think I should similarly be justified under the law, but I'm not confident I would be. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
If I'm
No,
making sense.
you're right. And again, it goes back, if you read these decisions, which I have because I had a police shooting case not that long ago. So it's maybe a bit fresher in my mind, or if you never actually dug into this topic
So
in case law.
you were representing a police officer who shot someone?
No, I was representing the victim who was shot by a police officer.
And was this in civil court then?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Gotcha. Yeah.
We ended up losing that case with flying colors, even though I think we had a pretty decent shot. It's just, again, the qualified immunity portion was literally an absolute nightmare to deal with because the case law that supported our position was just so far and few in between. I can tell you the bottom line is, from my reading of Supreme Court decisions and Court of Appeals decisions across this country, if I've learned one thing, is that our supreme judges all across this nation, not just the 9 at the top, but all of them, will bend over backwards to try and justify a shooting unless it is so grotesque and anomalous where it's like, oh, come on, it's so obvious. How did you not see it? And sometimes even those, it's so freaking obvious, how did you not see it? They will still bend over backwards to try and justify, because they, and this is how I feel, this is not written anywhere, sure, they want a police force that is not afraid to do their jobs. That's what they are hiding behind. That's the veil that they're hiding behind. They're saying, look, we don't want a police force of chicken shits who can't even, are afraid to raise their weapon. And meanwhile, now they have 2 decisions they have to bounce around in their mind. Am I going to get prosecuted for this, or am I going to die tonight? They don't want police officers to have to juggle those 2 thoughts in their brain. So they're leaving them with just the one: do I shoot or do I not shoot?
Now, brief question that gets a little bit more abstract, but on the subject. Do you find it interesting that, or let me rephrase that. I'll retract that, Your Honor. I find it interesting the way you said that they're afraid to do their jobs, but it's, to me, a police officer's job was not intended to be what it is today. When we had a very young country, this like peacekeeping police officer was not kind of the idea, right? It was, you were literally a cleanup guy. You investigated, you served warrants, and you brought people before the court for prosecution. Now we expect this involved interventionist police department. Maybe that's for the better, maybe that's for the worse. But I think that's where a lot of this wrestling comes from. And doctrines like qualified immunity have sprung up as we expect cops to suddenly do a thing that they weren't really designed to do, in my opinion. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
That is fascinating. I don't know that much history as you, Nick, but you literally just opened my eyes to something I never even considered. The first thing that you said about the police powers, you were literally listing off the powers of the sheriff or the constable, the deputy. I shot the sheriff. That's what that song is about. It's
Right, yeah.
the guy who just sits on his butt all day, drinking whiskey and making sure that nobody does anything stupid.
Hey,
And
wait
when
a
there is
minute.
a body, they go and investigate.
That sounds like me. Sit on my butt all day drinking whiskey. Let's be careful here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I call you out, Nick? No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so I mean, and that's the constable, right? But
Yeah.
now you're, by God, I have never thought about this. You have this entire force that is, rather than investigating a shooting, a murder, a crime after it has happened, you are now responsible for going to the scene of the crime and
Before it
taking
happens.
active measures to prevent it. Yes.
Yeah.
Or as it's happening.
It's wild because all of our rights that are written down, not the inferred or implied rights from the Ninth Amendment or whatever, but all the ones that are written down basically lead to the conclusion that this is all after the fact, right? Your Fourth Amendment right, your Fifth Amendment right, and your Sixth Amendment rights, the constitutional criminal procedure rights, all rely on the idea that this is all done. They don't contemplate police powers of prevention because there wasn't a method to get police there when those ideas were written down. There wasn't a way, like you couldn't call the police in 1792 to get over here. You'd send a courier. You're long dead by the time they show up, right? It doesn't
Right.
work. So that was their original purpose. And then as technology got out there and people got more scared of crime, I guess, and begged for the government to save them from it, we have less individual responsibility for prevention, right? We're not allowed. Hell, you can't trap your property in any way anymore. You can't have a spring gun or some sort of caltrop trap on your property. You can't defend yourself preemptively in that way. And so people, like, as that stuff starts developing, well, now I need someone to prevent this thing from happening to me, becomes more and more prevalent. And then once we're able to dispatch officers within minutes to get to a place, suddenly you have these police powers that never really existed before because they weren't even practical. And they give the state the authority to deprive you of liberty, deprive you of life. And the due process you get is a yes, no decision in some cop's mind, no matter what's going on in his life at the time. Like if he perceives the danger, then you're done. Your lights are out, and there's basically no recourse for it. So
Yeah.
I find that to be interesting. Okay, one more question on the DUI stuff.
Last one. And then
I think this will be kind of quick. What is your I guess what's the technical aspects of DUI cases? You've got all of this equipment that's going on there. How do you approach this? Because there's lots of gimmicky stuff. There's always like, how do I get out of my DUI search on Quora or whatever? But how do you actually go after this stuff? What kind of things should people be looking for? Let's say they've got a horrific public defender let's say they've got a public defender who doesn't have time for their case, and they want to give the public defender some ideas like that they encounter. What things should they be looking for in their own defense? to feed to a lawyer with maybe less experience?
I'm going to give you a very simple answer to that. It's completely impossible. The lawyer makes the case. You cannot make the case into the lawyer, if that makes
Sure.
any sense.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
It's a common misnomer, let me train my puppy to defend my case better for me. Like it doesn't work. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. I'm going to keep going with these analogies until somebody
No, it's
stops
great.
me.
You will never be stopped. You said you were done after this, so I'll let you go until you die if you want.
So the bottom line is you need to do your research, and if you can afford it. I know not everybody is able to afford it, obviously, but if you're able to afford the best defense that money can buy, or even the most mediocre defense money can buy, you can still get a very decent DUI lawyer that maybe is not the number one in your state, but is maybe number 2 or 3 or 5. They're still going to do a fantastic job for you. You want to ask them questions like, by the way, let's go with the worst questions that you can ask first.
Yeah.
How many cases have you won, or what percentage of cases do you win? These are all nonsensical questions that will not get you the desired result. They're just going to make the lawyer feel uncomfortable and not understand why they're being asked the question.
That's not true. I've got to call you out on this. I've been on Twitter and I've seen plenty of lawyers on Twitter talk about win-loss records, and all that stuff is very, very important and indicative of lawyer skills. And if they're a lawyer and on Twitter, I trust them implicitly.
Sarcasm detected.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail that.
No. I liked it. So that's absolutely positively questions you don't need to be asking. What you do need to ask your lawyer or potential lawyer you're looking to hire is, have you tried cases? Do you have experience trying cases? And sometimes you don't have to hold it against them if they're a young lawyer trying to make a career, trying to make a name for themselves. Maybe you're going to be their first trial. But if you sense that they're gung-ho, they know what they're doing, or at least they seem like they know, and you're like, look, this is the best I can afford, why not? Maybe I had a first jury trial once, and a second jury trial, and a third jury trial in my career, and I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like from my end, and I can tell you that it is worth the risk on your end if they truly are trying to make this name for themselves. You definitely don't want the lawyer who's been practicing for 25 years and has never tried a case in their life. This is what you're trying to avoid if you want a fighting chance for your case. If you're just looking to plea out, then you can hire whoever you want. But what I'm talking about is if you want to have the case litigated and you want to fight your case and you want to have a fighting chance. So obviously, other questions you can ask is, how many cases of this particular nature you have done,
Sure.
if they have experience in that particular field. You can ask them questions like, well, what do you plan on doing? What's your plan of action? If they brush you off, that's a red flag. Maybe they either don't know what they're doing, or if they're not willing to invest their time to talk to you, that's a red flag. They're just trying to take your money, and then where that's going to go. I think it's completely improper. A lawyer should sit there and spend, even if there's no guarantee that they're going to put money on the table when this 85-minute conversation is over. If you're not willing to spend the time with the client, because some clients need 5 minutes of your time and money's on the table. Some clients will need, like I said, 85 minutes of your time, and there's still no guarantee that there's going to be money on the table. And you will never become a master practitioner unless you learn to deal with the client in the way that the client wants to be dealt with. Right. If you brush people off, like I think, Nick, you said that in the beginning, people skills, right? This all comes back, witness interaction, client interaction. There's really not that much of a difference other than one is a hostile witness and the other is a non-hostile witness. That's it. One is on your side, the other is not on your side. They're both people, and they both require their own brand of finesse of the way you're going to approach the interaction. How are you going to approach the interaction? How does this client wants to be spoken to? What do they want to hear? How do they want to be interacted with? I mean, a good lawyer knows all these skills and has them in their repertoire. But your job is to make sure to read reviews. That's another huge one. Read their reviews. Just see what other people have said about the representation. If they have 3 stars, maybe they're not the best lawyer. That sounds like they got a bunch of 1 stars in there. If they have like a 4.8, 4.9, 5.0, and there's like 100 reviews, that's a very good indicator, for example. Sure. Because they have a good track record historically. Look at their website. What does it look like? It was made in 1995. That's another big potential red flag. Not necessarily. They may just be, their website is outdated because they're so focused on their practice. They may not even be a good thing, you know? But if it's devoid of information, obviously you're going to have to go elsewhere since their website is not going to be up to snuff. But these are definitely things that I would recommend you looking into when you're researching who to hire. And you will never, I promise you this, you will never be able to go and say, look, I've done my own research. Here, I printed a packet for you, Mr. Attorney or Mrs. Attorney or Ms. Attorney. Please read the packet and defend my case to my liking.
Yes, that's what I'm going to do now. Specifically, I'm going to go get a non-drinking DUI in your state. Like, I'm going to act drunk, and then I'm going to come up with a packet and hire you and be like, do it this way. Do it now, or else I'm not paying you.
That always works, Nick. Always, without 100% fail.
Of the time. Well, man, I'll let you go. You've hung around for a very long time tonight. I know it's really late for you because you're in Kentucky, which means you're East Coast time, right?
East, yeah. It's 2:20 over here.
Oh my goodness. Get out of here, man. I really appreciate you hanging out with me tonight. I would love to have you on again sometime because this has been a lot of fun. And good information for people in a field of law that is misunderstood by practitioners almost as much as it's misunderstood by laypersons. And I'm including myself in that. That's why I was really glad to be able to discuss the subject with you, because I was never wanting to put in the work to get the technical know-how on this.
And you're not alone, Nick, and it's not for everyone. I totally understand. No brownie points taken away from you. I've had a great fun. Thank you for having me. I'm just looking at the number of comments on chat. I wasn't able to see chat because I'm on mobile over here, but holy crap, you got an audience, man. Kudos to you. That's amazing.
We had over 4,000 people for the. Well, we still are over 4,000 people, but we peaked somewhere around 4,600 live, and lots more people watch this later. So your clitoris turning into a penis answer is going to be widespread. So
probably going to go viral, and not for the reasons I would like it to. I'm okay with it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Thanks for having me, Nick.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate it. Have a good night.
You too, man.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys, that was the DUI guy. Thank you so much. Oh, shit. I meant to get to Mr. Schwaggins' super chat. I saw it. I'm sorry. I meant to get to it, and I did not. I will answer it in just a moment. Sorry, Mr. Schwaggins. I really did intend. I got mixed up. But he told me we got him to stay much later than he said he would. So when I talked to him before the show, so that's great. Always a good sign. Really, really happy to have him on and get some good information from, again, a misunderstood field of law, and a guy who you can go watch his work. Like, you can go watch it on YouTube, and it's really good stuff. And people, you can learn a lot watching a lawyer who's good at what they do the thing that they're good at. And with him cross-examining police, his channel name is in the description, the DUI guy. Plus, you click on that thing, it'll take you right over. Go check out his stuff. If you like what he's got on there, give him a subscribe. If you don't, at least you watched a couple of his videos, and I always appreciate that. So thank you. I know YouTube is blocking super chats or something, or there's some error or glitch preventing a lot of them. I've heard a bunch of people have been complaining about it in the chat. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about that. Just know that I really do appreciate your attempts to send super chats in. And it's always wonderful to see people engaging with the show in that way. And I wish I could turn on the switch to make it work for you, but for whatever reason, there's some issue going on. And someone in the chat even said other people were having trouble with that on other channels. Other people are saying it works on mobile. I don't know. So here, let me lay out the rest of the night, because we have a little bit of show left. Don't leave. We're not just doing super chat wind down here. We've got the Johnny Depp Amber Heard recap. I was going to go over it with DUI guy, but in talking to him, I got the impression that he's not super caught up on that case. It was just kind of going to roll with it. So I really wanted to talk within his area of knowledge and expertise, since I had him for a limited amount of time. So thank you. If you're looking for that, it's going to come up in just a second. That's what she said. And then after that, we've got unbreaded. But right before both of those things, there are a couple $20 plus super chats I want to hit. And most importantly, the federal transportation mask mandate was shut down today by a federal judge. No more masks on planes, no more masks on trains, no more masks in airports. Any of these federal transportation things have gotten fisted right out of their mask bullshittery. It's done. It's over. You can find videos online of pilots making the announcement to the plane and the plane literally cheering. That's how fucking stupid this shit has been for the past 2 years. Years of this have been going on, and people are tired of complying with this shit. They are tired of this. And finally, we get a little bit of sense, and we get this thing knocked out. The judge who did it finally made the right call. I don't know the grounds on which they made it. I don't know anything. But after the judge put the injunction out, there was an announcement that they would not be enforcing the federal mask mandate on trains and planes. So it's done for now. No one will. This is the hard part. A lot of people, like Sydney Watson, who I like, tweeted something out like, no one stopped you before. I mean, they did, though. I've seen people on the verge of getting thrown out of an airplane for non-compliance with the mask mandate. If you're sitting at the gate, not wearing the mask, there are stories of them actually doing emergency plane landings, not at their destination, to remove someone who's not wearing a mask. And there are other horror stories of people being put on no-fly lists for refusing to wear their masks, either in airports or in airplanes. And like that, those stories and the threat of that sort of deterrence, where you might not be able to fly again, you might not be able to fly home, for example, was enough to keep most people in compliance with it. And because it's a big risk. And now that risk is gone. It's done. So fantastic. That should never happen again. I will say it. A federal mandate on a face covering should never happen, even if it were objectively wise and correct, which I do not agree that this was. But even if it were guaranteed to keep you from dying, it should not be allowed, because liberty is risk. And I don't need the government to mitigate my risk. I have liberty. I can mitigate my own fucking risk. And if I'm very scared of dying, I could just not go do the thing that I'm choosing to do. That's it. That's the end of it. And that is the choice that I make. Living in your house involves risk. Leaving your house involves risk. Whatever you do beyond just existing involves risk. And it's our job and our responsibility to manage our own risk appropriately. So fuck mandates, fuck the government, fuck the masks. And I can't wait. Now I can't wait for my next plane flight. Now I can't wait. So that's that. Let me hit these super chats, then we'll do the Depp herd update real quick. Mr. Schwagen says, what is more safe / protections at a traffic stop? A box with postage in my car or my smartphone? Both have equally incriminating things in them. Oh, what thing is more safe? Okay, that's so either of those things are protected about the same, frankly. So you've got the way a stop works is a stop is an investigative stop, a Terry stop, if you will. And a cop does not have the full authority to search until they develop probable cause. A Terry stop is reasonable suspicion that criminal activity is afoot. It allows further investigation. A full-on search requires probable cause and either a warrant or an exception to the warrant requirement under the Fourth Amendment. Valid exceptions. The vehicle exception is a valid exception. So your vehicle can be searched. Now we start to get into a muddy area. First, the search of the vehicle must be a reasonably articulable to determine that they will find evidence of the crime being investigated. So if you're suspected for DUI, for example, the crime would be, is there an open bottle in the car? Can I search for an open bottle? Can I search for a bag of cocaine? Can I search for something? What are you suspected of? What is, and the search has to be related to that to initiate the search. Now, what they find in your car is different than what they are initiating the search of. Now, if you subsequently have a locked cell phone or a taped up box, you have an argument that those are not subject to the same search as the car because, one, it's not reasonable that you'll find evidence of criminal activity in those things, like your phone. If you're being pulled over for DUI, what evidence in your phone would be applicable to a DUI arrest? The police officer would have to articulate why they think they'll find something in your phone. Now, maybe the cop pulls you over. He sees you recording a selfie video while you're swerving all over the place. They may find evidence of a crime in that case on your phone. They may then be justified in the search. In a sealed box, it depends. Are they looking for drugs? Do they have reason to believe that you are shipping or transporting drugs? Have they gotten a tip that a car bearing your license plate is transporting narcotics across state lines? Someone witnessed a drug deal, and then maybe then they have a justification to search the box. But every search, every seizure, every Fourth Amendment question is nested in the totality of circumstances that is present. It is fact specific and fact intensive. There are no bright line rules on this. But I will say that your car has a default exception to the warrant requirement. You're moving on a public road. They're going to get to, unless you live in your car, unless that's your domicile and you're pulled over. But generally speaking, they're going to have an exception to the warrant requirement. So all they need is probable cause. To get into that package, moving exception to the warrant requirement, probably it could exist in a package that's being actively shipped. It's less likely in a package that is in your possession and is not being shipped. And phones, they could try and argue that the phone is subject to destruction, like you could delete evidence or whatever. But the answer to that is to temporarily seize the phone or to detain you and while they apply for a warrant on that. So they shouldn't really have a warrant exception on it, but they could argue for it. I hope that helps. There's a long, complicated answer. Constitutional criminal procedure, though, is a broad area of law that you could spend semesters of law school discussing. So I hope that helps. Yeah, Stella, I know that YouTube won't let you super chat. Lots of people with that problem. Apparently mobile super chats are working, but maybe desktop is not. I don't know. Mr. Schwagen says, I've heard fingerprints are not protected, but passcodes are. Yes, biometric data is not speech. You didn't create it. It's not yours. Passwords are more protected as they are speech. If that password can be incriminating, you can't necessarily be forced to utter it. Compelled speech is very hard for the government to do. It's possible that they could say that a password can be compelled. They've done stuff like that, but it's harder for the government to do. But yeah, forcing you to put your thumbprint on a thumbprint scanner or do, the facial recognition, that oftentimes is acceptable. Biometric data that's not your created idea, and you don't have a privacy interest in it. Unless you're trans, I guess, right? Like maybe your thumbprint you did with your penis. And if you're trans, you created that, maybe. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I'm just vibing here. Isaac Bowles, message retracted. Not sure why. Thank you, though. The Surreal Goose says, really good show tonight. Thanks. Hey, thank you. I thought so, too. A fascinating guest. Deg says, Nick, I'm a 5-year professional .NET/JS dev. If you have any work for a programmer, I'm looking to make a name for myself by simplifying the workflow for my favorite YouTubers. Anything you've got that pisses you off? A million things, dude. Everything. Oh no. He says, bro, every single method I've tried to contact you is failing completely. Join YouTube, join local super chats failing. If this works, I'm pissed. Well, get pissed, buddy. Because I see it. Deg, the problem with working with me is me. And you can ask anyone who works with me. Until I get like a personal assistant at some sort, which I'm more and more considering trying to figure that out. Until I get someone to filter out the riffraff from the actual like important stuff, and navigate that, I'm just hard to get a hold of in general. So I apologize for missing your other stuff, but yeah, I'll have to figure out how to talk to you. Because there's plenty that pisses me off, but we'll see. Patrick Sama says, peen versus clit is the new legal question of our time. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. What a disaster. Okay. Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. We've got here's the most important thing of Johnny Depp, Amber Heard. If you've been waiting for this, rumor has it Johnny Depp will be testifying tomorrow. So don't miss tomorrow's show. That's the rumor. That's what's being speculated by apparently several commentators and people who've been following this thing. Johnny Depp will be testifying tomorrow. They started the testimony of his personal security guard today. He was great for Johnny on the witness stand. He will be cross-examined first thing tomorrow morning. And it's highly possible that Johnny Depp gets called tomorrow. That's what I'll be looking for on the case. I don't know who will be joining me on the panel tomorrow, but that should be a very exciting occurrence if that's true. But I don't know. But that's the big thing. What happened today in the case was we got the testimony from Johnny Depp's registered nurse, which was something. First we finished up the testimony of the doctor, Dr. Kipper. This is the $100,000 a month concierge doctor, your private doctor who will travel with you, who will get you whatever super drugs you need at whatever time of day, who will get you into hospitals across the world, who will get you the medical care you want as fast as it can possibly be done. No waiting for appointments, none of that. This is Dr. Kipper. And so he testified about Johnny Depp, about his communications, and his testimony was largely okay. We found out that he was also the personal doctor, the concierge doctor of Amber Heard, and assigned a nurse practitioner to her as well. And they were the concierge doctor for both of them. And in that time, there were no reports of injuries or anything like that for Amber Heard. That's big testimony. Despite all of this, despite having a doctor literally a moment away, a phone call away, oftentimes with you, despite having a care provider at your literal fingertips, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are no injuries reported for Amber Heard at all, much less injuries consistent with domestic violence. That's big news. That's probably going to be a big deal made of that on closing arguments. Next, we move into the registered or the nurse practitioner who is assigned to Johnny Depp. So a nurse practitioner has the ability to prescribe and issue medications to patients under the supervision of a supervising doctor. They're not full-on doctors. They're a nurse with extra training that can prescribe medications. Very important if you want to be giving drugs to Hollywood celebrities, you assign them a nurse practitioner who will follow them, go with them to private islands and all of that stuff. Listening to the lives of these people is phenomenal because it lets you know just how different reality can be when you have fame and an effectively unlimited set of money at your fingertips. The amount of money that these people make, again, just think $100,000 a month medical service that you just pay. No big deal. You there's no copay or anything. I mean, you're paying for what you get. that's what you got. And they're at your disposal. They literally go on family vacations with you. It's fascinating to see that aspect of reality put down because of the wealth and income disparity. And I don't say this in a negative way. I say it in a positive way, is phenomenally interesting. You live in worlds of poor people, middle-class people, doing well people, pretty wealthy people, and then you get into real wealth, and it makes everybody look poor. Johnny Depp money makes people who make $500,000 a year look poor. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about how much money that is. I love it. It's fantastic. I hope someday to somehow stumble into filthy rich hood, because I would have a concierge doctor. It'd be great. Private plane, all of that stuff. Fantastic. Yeah, I'd take a plane to McDonald's. Next. But following that, her testimony went for a very, very long time. And it was this is video deposition testimony for the doctor and for the nurse practitioner. And then finally, we did get to Johnny Depp's personal bodyguard, who was in person. He's a former police officer and took up private security jobs and is Johnny Depp's full-time private security guy. That's his primary job. He's done a couple other little side gigs here and there, but Johnny Depp that's his job. And he was there for all of this stuff. And he talked about a lot. He said some things he wasn't allowed to say, but he said them anyway, because he's a professional witness, being a former cop. And finally, presented some pictures to the jury of injuries that Johnny Depp sustained during altercations with Amber Heard, though he wasn't allowed to say that she caused those things because he didn't personally witness the things. He did personally photograph the aftermath and expressed that he wanted those. He thought that Johnny needed those photographs in case Amber Heard came out with false allegations against him. And that testimony, I think, will stick. That was powerful and really good for Johnny. We'll see what happens. Cross-examination starts tomorrow, 9 a.m. Central Time. I'll be starting up the stream sometime between 8:30 and 8:45 probably tomorrow. But, we're finally into some testimony that you really don't want to miss, because it's good stuff and it's electric. I'm not sure how they're going to deal with this guy on cross, but they got to do some work discrediting him. And then redirect could be pretty interesting as well. And then hopefully we'll see Johnny Depp take the stand, which is what everybody is waiting for. Johnny Depp and Amber Heard to take the stand in their own case. That's the gem that everybody is looking for in the jewelry shop. So we'll see. I hope that helps with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard update. Brief drama update. Ethan Ralph has unblocked me on Twitter because I must have said something to finally trigger him enough to start replying, even though what I said was pretty mild. Nick Fuentes was on video with Ralph and Flamenco, talking about how Nick Fuentes, apparently, this is what he says. This is kind of surprising to me. Flags everybody who makes fun of him. Like he says, if people are making fun of me, I flag them. I report their channel. I do all that stuff, which I thought was pretty, like, that's a little embarrassing. Like, somebody's making fun of you, you can flag them for it. I mean, I get whatever you want to do. I just didn't think that was who he was, but apparently that's what he is. I'm not sure if he's just trying to guard for Ethan Ralph's abominable history of flagging and all that stuff. But the worst part of that was that Fuentes was saying this in the context of Ralph false DMCAing Flamenco, which is not a flag for harassment. Like, maybe you can justify Nick's position if he says, yeah, people are harassing me, they're lying about me or whatever, I'll report them for, hate speech, or I don't know what I don't know what flagging materially means, but DMCA is different. DMCA is a legal process. It initiates a legal process. And in doing so, you need to be doing it for the purposes of copyright infringement, a good faith copyright infringement. And if you're using it for any other purpose, it's unlawful and also gay. So I know Nick is probably just trying to defend Ralph because he's his friend, because he thinks that he's an asset to Cozy or whatever. And that's cool. I just think that maybe that defense goes a little too far in the context, because Ralph is DMCA striking people when he has no business doing so, and admitting that it's false, that's not the reason. That's the problem there. So very, very stupid situation going on. But since I commented on that, that got Ralph to unblock me. It's always the thing you least expect. You laugh at a fart, and suddenly you're the worst person who's ever lived. And everybody, like your whole family, is now on the menu for truly vile things to be said about them, for chuckling mildly at a fart that was on a live stream that 100% occurred. He farted. His 24-hour live stream, his crowning achievement of Ethan Ralph was this live stream, and he farted on it and ruined the whole thing. 24 hours, and it was ruined by 1/8 of a second. Brap. It's too bad, really. Everybody cared about that live stream until that fart, and that did it. And I had the audacity to chuckle at it. Damn. Well, I guess. I guess. Oh my goodness. But that's the drama update. And now I'm done with that. Let me get these couple super chats, and then we will do our daily unbreaded. Peter Keys says, Nick, you awake to A, Miss Heard leaving a steamer in your bed, B, Tess Holiday making you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, spreading it on the bread with her tongue. Pick one. No fat chicks. I gotta go with the Heard turd, right? Like, you gotta do that. I can't have some ham beast tongue spreading peanut butter on my sandwich. It can't happen. I can't do it. It's disgusting. I can't do that. That's ugh. Sketchum says, as someone who has bad social anxiety, airports plus not being able to breathe gave me so many panic attacks. Sincerely, thank the Lord. Dude, I'm pretty hard to rattle on most things, especially like that. But dude, you get on a long flight and you're wearing that mask, and it gets just fucking it's tugging at your ears. You're uncomfortable. You're breathing in that stale air, the smell of the mask, no matter what it is. You had a burger right before you get on the planes. It smells like pickles and mustard or whatever. It's fucking gross. You can't get rid of you could use a new mask or whatever, but that's like your only option. And then even the new mask has that smell, and maybe it was kept in a musty drawer or something. I don't know. I hate it. I hated that having something that close to your face for that long gets real nasty, no matter what you do about it. I don't like it. I'm so glad it's over. Natasha says, it was the hentai balls / no balls of Amica cream that hurt the super chats. Could be. Don't know what's happening there. But that's that. All right. It's time.
Unbreaded.
All right, here we go. We got the random number generator going. Let's see where we land today, ladies and gentlemen. 501. Oh, I think I know what page this is going to be. 501. I think this is going to be one of those repeat pages, if I had to guess. It is. Remember, roughly a seventh of the pages in this document are the same page repeated. But that's that. Let's see. How should I do it tonight? How do you do this page uniquely and freshly every time? If you don't know what I'm about to do, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Daily Unbreaded. This is reading one page every night from the manifesto of Matthew Harris, his manifesto called Death Sentences. Matthew Harris is a former UCLA postdoctoral lecturer. That means he has a doctoral degree in philosophy, and he was a professor of philosophy at UCLA. So he taught philosophy there. He posted this on the philosophy forum at UCLA, and also sent some allegedly death-threatening emails, which seem to be true. It's like that allegation seems to hold up to those philosophy faculty, stating he was going to shoot them and kill them if he could just get a gun, which he was prevented from doing because he had an active restraining order and the background check found it. So he was not able to get his gun. Eric Allen says, happy to help read the Unbreadable especially during Passover. Not tonight. I got it tonight, buddy. Thank you. Steve C says, Super Chat's working now just in time for Daily Unbreaded. If I had a vote, I'd vote for all repeats to be skipped. But you don't, and we are at the mercy of the gods. This isn't actually it's not a repeat as in I've read page 501. It's just that page 501 is the same as the 80 pages preceding it. Richard's voice. I think we could do Richard's voice. I think I could. It's hard to maintain a voice through an entire thing for a long period of time, but I think we could do that. Here we go. Okay, so these are the words of Matthew Harris. Anywhere ever again, bomb everything so often and so randomly that nowhere is safe. Binger, kill all the bikes. Binger, kill all the blink mongoloids. Binger, kill all the red mongoloids. Binger, kill all of the bike ottomans. Binger, kill all of the crackers. Binger, kill all of the children of other tribes. Kill all their kids. Kill the politicians. Don't elect them anymore. Kill all the famous people. Kill everyone who's not a Binger. Kill all the civilians. Kill this civilization. Kill white civilization. Stop sharing Earth. Stop sharing life. Detonate every bomb. Plant every knife into a body. Burn every temple. Burn every white church. Shoot every mayor who is Asian. shoot all Asian politicians, shoot all the Asian store owners and college students, shoot all the Asian business owners and lawyers, shoot all the Asians, shoot all the bikes too, shoot all the Asian programmers and students and entertainers, hunt Asians like rats, hunt all the Asians out, kill every blink, hunt the blinks out of colleges, bomb the auditorium, bomb the gym, bomb everything so no one wants to go anywhere really ever again, bomb everything so often and so randomly that nowhere is safe. Binger, kill all the bikes. Binger, kill all the blink mongoloids. Binger, kill all the red mongoloids. Binger, kill all the bike ottomans. Binger, kill all the crackers. Binger, kill all the children of other tribes, kill all their kids, kill politicians, don't elect them anymore, kill all the famous people, kill everyone who's not a Binger, kill all the civilians, kill this civilization, kill white civilization, stop sharing Earth, stop sharing life, detonate every bomb, plant every knife into a body, burn every temple, burn every white church, shoot every mayor who is Asian, shoot all Asian politicians, shoot all the Asian store owners and college students, shoot all the Asian business owners and lawyers, shoot all the Asians, shoot all the bikes too, shoot all the Asian programmers and students and entertainers, hunt Asians like rats, hunt all the Asians out. Kill every blink. Hunt the blinks out of colleges. Bomb the auditorium. Bomb the gym. Bomb everything so no one wants to go anywhere ever again. Bomb everything so often and so randomly that nowhere is safe. Binger, kill all the bikes. Binger, kill all the blink mongoloids. Binger, kill all the red mongoloids. It's a mongoloid. Binger, kill all of the bike ottomans. Binger, kill all of the crackers. Kill all of the children of other tribes. Kill all their kids. Kill politicians. Don't elect them anymore. Kill all the famous people. Kill everyone who's not a Binger. Kill all the civilians. Kill this civilization. Kill white civilization. Stop sharing the earth. Stop sharing life. Detonate every bomb. Plant every knife into a body. Burn every temple. Burn every white church. Shoot every mayor who is Asian. Shoot all the Asian politicians. Shoot all the Asian store owners and college students. Shoot all the Asian business owners and lawyers. Shoot all the Asians. Shoot all the bikes too. Shoot all the Asian programmers and students and entertainers. Hunt Asians like rats. Hunt them all the Asians out. Kill every blink. Hunt the blinks out of colleges. Bomb the auditorium. Bomb the gym. Bomb everything so no one wants to go. Unbreaded. There you go, chat. there you go. it's tough, man, to maintain impressions for the long periods of time. But I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you're new to the channel, well, I'm, welcome to it. We engage in fun here. That's that. We got a couple super chats and then we've got to wrap up the show because it's getting pretty late. And I have to get to bed so I can get up for Depp versus her. Dude, today was a nightmare. I did my taxes last night. As I've said several times, I got to bed. Like I got done with my taxes at 5. And I went to bed probably 5:30 to 6 in the morning, somewhere in there. I don't know what time between 5:30 and 6 specifically that I fell down. I fell asleep pretty quick, but I had to be back up at 8:30, and it was a nightmare. Oh, whoo! And then I had to end the stream a little early for Depp because I had to drive our daughter somewhere unexpectedly. Which was fine, not like a problem or anything. But I had to do that. And so I didn't even get to finish the super chats, which I will be trying to intersperse into the silent times tomorrow. I'll be getting to all of the super chats that were sent yesterday or earlier today during the live stream. That will happen, and we'll be addressing those as we go and addressing the new ones as well. So that'll be fun. Any Amber Heard shit picks? They may come in. I don't know. We have to see where they introduce them during this case. Oh, let me get. Oh yeah, let me get those out of my ears. Perfect. All right. So speaking of super chats, we're gonna do the super chat. Oh, Jack Murphy is gonna be tomorrow night. I think earlier in the show, Adam Krigler was like, "Hey, when are we finishing the Jack Murphy interview?" Well, buddy, you just signed up for tomorrow night. Adam Krigler will be on. So if you want to make fun of a strangely bearded Soylent man, that's what we will be doing tomorrow. We can hear all of his ruminations and philosophical insights into the masculine man who lets other men bang his wife. Okay, sounds fun. Okay, let's do these chats again. Stooge Muffin Seven says, "Can I have a toast for my grandma? I just got back from her funeral. She will be missed dearly." Yes. And Eric Allen sent, "Oh my God, loving this and happy Easter, my friend." Happy Easter to you too, Eric. Thank you. All right. Read Jack Murphy quotes in Richard's voice. Oh boy. Poor Mark Richards. He doesn't deserve to be done dirty like that. He doesn't deserve it. I mean, he's going to get it. Like, he didn't deserve today's unbreaded. He didn't deserve that. He was a stalwart defender of Kyle Rittenhouse. He pulled out the bros job, right? Like, he did it. He stuck by him, got him off of all the charges. But he gets it anyway. Okay. Let's see. So, to Stooge Muffin Stuffin'. To your grandma, man. Grandmas they're everyone's Iron Lady, right? It's not the moniker of what, Madeleine Albright or whatever. Everyone's Iron Lady is their grandmother. They are the lovers. They are the doters. They are the promoters. They are the builders of character, of confidence, and they are the champion in your corner. That isn't your parents who have to do it. It's the grandparents who love to do it. And to have them in your life is truly a blessing. The amount of wisdom and experience that they have being combined with the fact that they will cheer you on at your worst, at your absolute worst, is testament to their roles in our lives and how much they mean to us. So to Stooge Muffin Stuffin', to your grandmother, not may she be missed, she will be missed. Cheers, brother. May she rest in peace. All right, there you go. There you go. All right. Kentucky says, "Send you paid chat on Odyssey and YouTube gets none." You're welcome, Nick. Hey, thank you. Thank you, Kentucky, over on Odyssey. Hope the Odyssey streaming experience is a little smoother. They sent me a new streaming server address to they've made some improvements on their RTMP stuff on their streaming server. Hopefully it was a little bit better today. I know it's been kind of struggling the past couple streams, so let me know, Odyssey, how it was. I heard some people say this is great because it actually worked today, which is always good. So next, over on Rumble, SC Medic 71 says, "Was arrested 10/2018 for DUI, blew 0.0 at the jail. Then the trooper drove me to the hospital for a blood test. 2 weeks later, it came back totally clean. It was totally dropped at the first court appearance. Cost $4,000. Yep. That's it. That's that's how it goes. Damn. SC Medic 71 says low blood sugar looks like DUI, high blood sugar smells like it due to acetone. Eric Winberg says your grift accepted here. Yes, it is. You can always go to Odyssey or Rumble if you want to participate in the show that way. And if you don't like YouTube, those options are there. Rumble username sucks, as we all know Richards would have dropped the hard R every time there, you pussy, but I appreciate this. Mommy Chew, next time this page comes up again, Judge, I'm about to say the N-word. I'll allow it. If I read that page in Mommy Chew voice, it'll take 200 years. It'll take forever. But yeah, it's great. Great stuff. Next, back to YouTube. Ethan Hall says, seeing if this works. It did. Cornelius Buttknuckles says nose equals hourglass and rainbow. Not sure what that means. Very obscure emotes here, and I just frankly can't put them together. Professor Chaos says DUI guys meme game is on point. CL Hunter says, I've been seeing U.S. military ads on Twitter frequently. Is war inevitable, or is it joining season? A lot of people are about to get out of high school. That's the simplest explanation is a lot of people are about to graduate high school, and so they're kicking up military advertising. I should do a military show. I'd probably get good rates on my ads. It'd be perfect. Isaac Baruch's wholesome gabagool art says, I'm watching Legal Bites' coverage of Depp versus Heard, but you always give me an unbreaded every evening. An unbreaded evening. Much thanks, Nikki. Have some Jimberries. Thank you. Hope you're enjoying Legal Bites' coverage of the Depp versus Heard case. C. Goody says, test from mobile. Cynthia Cotney says, C. Goody, success. No laws with White Claws says, for the guest, peanut butter for your dog or no? Tentacles out the mouth or no? And what are your thoughts on riding horses? Oh, shit. Those are good questions. Blue Varro, welcome to Paralegal Status. I appreciate that. Eric P says kisses. Ann B. Feinstein says, I was pulled over for DUI. No drugs, nothing in my system. We homebrew beer. I was covered in it since we'd been bottling. Blue point 000. I knew the results. Caldwell says, Seminole member, I beat a DUI. Best lesson that I do not belong in bars. Yeah, you don't want to be there. You don't want to do that. Tamara Holloway says, maybe Elijah's visit on your show was the problem. I frankly don't think it was anything to do with me. Like, I may take credit for it, but I don't think it has anything to do with me personally. And I certainly hope not. I wish Elijah and Sydney the best of success in whatever they do. If it's You Are Here or whatever, I like them all. The producer of the show is great. Everybody I've met associated with it is super nice and cool. So I hope whatever's going on is temporary, personally. Joe's Atmosphere says, DUI guy sporting the people's eyebrow. Outstanding. Cheers. Toast with Corona and lime washing down peppermint schnapps. That sounds gross to me, but if you like it, that's good. Benjamin Bishaw says, I'm 3-0 for DUI stops, and I was the designated driver each time. Yeah, sometime they're going to just pull you over. Moon Unit says, that's what I've been hearing. It's a shock. What's a shock? What's going on? Let's see. I don't know. That could be unrelated to anything. Thomas Finton says, with the experience the DUI guy brings to the table, how would you guys handle a certain Rage Pig's drunk police encounter / escapades if you were told to represent him in court? Well, it doesn't work very well, but you argue on the police escapades with Ralph, where he took a swing allegedly at a female officer. You argue that his intoxication made him unable to manifest a criminal intent, that he wasn't actually intending to strike anybody at all. He was just completely out of sorts and out of control. And It's not an absolute defense to the charge, because attempting to strike an officer is attempting to strike an officer, whether you like quote unquote really meant it or not. But you try to mitigate the charge as much as possible, and maybe plea it out to a no jail sentence type thing with some rehab or some sort of alcohol counseling, something like that. Something that clearly didn't happen. Eclipse Warlord says, are you aware that there's a YouTube channel called LawTube that's been around since 2013? They mostly do short law videos under 5 minutes. Nope. Had no idea. Not at all. Fauci says, attention, Larry, $2 for purchase of extra shirt button. Ann B. Feinstein says, P2 supervisor wouldn't let cop draw blood. Good. Evan Schultz says, I'm a new CDL holder. I don't drink and drive, but any advice for commercial drivers? Same thing, man. Refuse the field tests, because even if you blow a 0.0, they can develop, again, not legal advice, consult with a DUI attorney in your jurisdiction. But refusing the field tests does not allow them to gather evidence that you are intoxicated. If you're tired, if you had a long day, CDL driver, you know that if you don't get a good night's sleep and you've been on the road for 8 to 10 hours, you probably act a little bit wonky, a little bit silly, a little bit groggy by the end of your shift. You don't want to have that happen. So also, if you are a user of recreational drugs, even legal ones, there can be issues with building up substances in your system, even if you're not particularly intoxicated. So refusing those field tests, you may get arrested and you may have to go in and have a blood draw or something like that. But they also may not have sufficient cause to ask you to take the field test. And they may just ask. And if you refuse consent, they may have to say okay and send you on your way. So but you're on the right track in general. You don't drink and drive. That's the most important part. The overwhelming majority of people who do not drink and drive are going to not have problems in their lives with that particular issue, obviously. Robbie McCann says, never mind. NM, implied consent. Oh, New Mexico. You refuse breath blood test, you lose your license, plus get charged with more serious offense, aggravated DWI. Right. And that's usually the refusal is the breath/blood test at the station, not the field breath test. Deg has joined at the paralegal level. Thank you. St. Green Pact says, F Big Mouth is a groomer show on Netflix. Wall. Seagoody says, no balls, Mabinga. Props to the DUI guy. Hashtag no balls. The Buzz CJC says, same question, but for Delta 8, which is legal. Anything like, well, it might depend on the state's specific statute, but anything that can impair your driving, some laws are driving while impaired. Others are driving under the influence. So DWI, DUI, they're kind of interchangeable, but in some states, driving while impaired is a similar crime. And even sleep deprivation can be sufficient to sustain a conviction of driving while impaired. So same thing with legal drugs if they have impact. My understanding is Delta 8 does not have, for the most part, not to be confused with the Delta 8 that CBDX.com apparently sells, but for a lot of Delta 8 users and a lot of Delta 8 products do not produce the same level of psychoactive effect that Delta 9 THC does. But that's my understanding. I'm not an expert. Alex Code Things, toast to your new contract, brother. Sorry the super chats aren't working tonight. Hopefully they fix that, because it's kind of how some of us do things. But cheers to 6 years, man. Good luck. All right. Rocker 6723 says, as a guy who drives a big truck in central Minnesota, I get more pullovers for driving it in the Twin Cities than I do driving it around the St. Cloud area. Yeah. City cops, man, a lot of them have quotas. They'll say they don't, but they do. They have performance reviews based on arrests, based on I think in Minnesota it came out that they, during a particular case where they pulled over someone, that they needed to have 2 interactions per like shift or per couple hours. Per shift seems like not very many, but it was like they had to have 2 interactions. They didn't necessarily have to have a ticket or an arrest, but they had to have recordable interactions, which means a pullover oftentimes, even if that pullover was barely or questionably justified. Eclipse Warlord says, if you like the DUI guy's FUTA answer, hit the like button. Show the algorithm you care. JJ says, Mr. Officer, are you a liar? No. I call officer's wife as a rebuttal witness, Your Honor. Gerard Garvin says, are most of your clients Irish? Very, very good. Thank you, Gerard. Next, we've got Eldon says, have you seen the video detailing how Amber Heard has been wearing what Johnny did the previous day to continue tormenting him? I did, and I don't know if the purpose is to continue tormenting him or whatever, but she does seem to have some similar outfits, certainly. Let's see. Grimm's Bar says, DUI guy, Kentucky represent. Walter Deadman says, there's reasons for feedback or reasons for Facebook and TikTok being different. One is controlled by wine moms and the other is controlled by West Taiwanese communist wine moms. Look, one thing about Facebook, YouTube, I think, is a more libertarian right audience. Facebook is a more boomer conservative right audience. Yeah, we'll say we'll do that. We'll do that. Grimm's Bar says the role of the judiciary is to validate the state. And he also says, meanwhile, states have razor wire, double standard. Isaac Bowles says, I had forgotten why I dislike lawyers, but this guy just reminded me. Thanks. The amount of lies he spewed, I unfortunately can't put on Super Chat. Oh, man. Called out the DUI guy. Curious what you took issue with. That'd be kind of interesting. Driving stoned AF legal in Ohio? I doubt it. Meth Bear says defects exist in DUI cases. People plea when critical defects exist that would make it difficult to convict, but it's not revealed to the defendant. That's a lot of criminal defense work in general. It's easier and cheaper to plea, and oftentimes the plea punishment is just more palatable than fighting a lawsuit to trial. Philip Booty says, nice way of Jewing people out of money. Quote, my super chats are under attack. Here's your $1.85. Don't spend it all in one place. Keep up the good show. Look, I didn't say my super chats were under attack. The mods did. And everybody else did. I don't know. I'm just reading, bro. Andrew Sullivan says, justice for Johnny. Also, please pray for my family. These are hard times. Gab at quintessential millennial dad. Andrew Sullivan, I will take some time tonight and pray for you and your family. Look, man, tough times can be, I'll say they're temporary, but that temporary can feel like a really long time and sometimes can be a really long time. So hang in there, brother. Do what you do. Keep plugging away. You are the man and the responsibility will fall on you, but you are the man and you will succeed. You can do it, man. Stellar J. Adkins says, I got a DUI at 16 with a .02. Yes, often states have not a drop laws for under 21 years old. I'd had one beer while fishing, not even close to drunk, couldn't get licensed for 2 years, and high-risk insurance till 25. Derailed my whole life early. I hate the government. You should. You should. The not a drop laws are, I get the idea, but they're also ridiculous because, just because like having a drop of alcohol does not mean you're automatically a danger in any way. So to do that as the punishment is a little extreme. Sean McDonald says Richard's Unbreaded is the best content ever. Andrew War Snowboard says, care to comment on Elijah's tweet rant on Blinks? I saw a couple of them. They were weird, man. I don't know what's going on, but it's kind of funny. Joe K says, hey, Nick, fighting the final boss of Elden Ring. Wish me luck and have some shekels. Thank you to Joe K for that. And finally, Wolf of Fenris says, there is always a huge uptick in military recruitment and signing in the summers. Fort Benning, Georgia would get 300 plus recruits per company inside of a week. Yeah, again, lots of people get out of high school and then sign up for the Army or Navy or Air Force or Marines or whatever. So that is that. I think that's the end of the show. I think that's it. So thank you all for hanging out with me. Tomorrow morning, I'm gonna make the link right now before going to bed. Johnny Depp. Tomorrow night, Adam Krigler, and we finish the Jack Murphy video. So should be fun. We'll see you guys there, hopefully. And yeah, I guess that's it. I'm going to play the outro. Thanks for joining tonight, guys. I hope you enjoyed the guests. Hope you enjoyed the show. As always, we'll see you next time. Peace. Peace.
Oh, he drinks a fair bit, but you realize that it just helps get his noggin jogging along. With his glass by his side and his kids asleep tight, we'll hear some lost-plaining tonight. With his microphone muted, we'll laugh at this boomer until he explains it's all part of the plan. Watch his face become redder as he becomes meta, raging at idiots from Twitterland. From the white shores of Maine to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed, make the law what we have now. Oh, his lady is fair, and she handles herself with the grace of one who has borne many children. As the wife of a lawman, she makes sure that he has the time and the place to provide for them there. So pour out an Ardbeg, a Balmore, a Lafroig, the spirits flow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter as we hear lost-plaining tonight. From the white shores of Nairn to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, the guests are all plentiful, from Dante to Drexel. They bring their perspective and spice to the mix. But the reason we're here and the one that we cheer is the one who is showcasing us his career. Get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter as we hear lost-plaining tonight. From the white shores of Nairn to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who